Hello, good evening. Am I audible? Can you all hear me? You guys can drop a message if you can hear me. Okay, right. So today we'll be focusing on biological processes of life as well as biosphere. Okay, so I put this poll asking for the lessons which you guys find difficult, and these were the lessons that you all chose. So yeah, we'll be doing that today. Okay. Now, when it comes to biological processes of life, okay, so you will be learning about five systems. Okay, so we'll be talking about digestion, then respiration, excretion, blood circulation, as well as coordination and homeostasis. So, under coordination and homeostasis, I will not be doing the nervous system part because it was tested last year for the essay topic. So, that will not be done. Apart from that, I'll be doing the rest, right? Okay. So, let's start with digestion of food. Right. So now this entire process of digestion, okay, so it's basically breaking down the complex organic compounds that we consume. Like when I say complex organic compounds, for example, carbohydrates, right? So carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, these are large organic molecules. Okay, so organic molecules means any molecule that contains carbon. So inorganic molecules means molecules that do not contain carbon. I hope you guys know that. So that's in first unit, right? So these complex organic molecules are going to be broken down into simple organic molecules. Right. Okay. So you have to know the definition of digestion. So that's important. And it's better to know it word to word, right? So you can get the full mark there. Okay. So now when we talk about digestion, we have two types of digestion, right? So mechanical digestion as well as chemical digestion. Now, since you all have already done this unit, right? I want you guys to tell me, give me an example for a place where mechanical digestion takes place. That means you're going to be physically grinding the food that you're consuming. So there are two places. May I get an answer, please? You guys can answer. Okay, let's see. Who's this? Mouth. Yes, very good. Very good, Zainab. And can I get another place? There's another place where food is physically digested, where churning action takes place. Okay, I even told the particular word, so you all must know. What's the other place? Y'all can try. It's okay if the answer is wrong. Anyone? Yes, stomach. Yeah, those are the two places where mechanical digestion takes place. So, an example for chemical digestion, where does chemical digestion happen? That involves enzymes. Yes, chemical digestion. You can say stomach again. Stomach is a place where chemical digestion happens. Yes. And there's another place where it happens. It's very important. Can I get an answer? Yeah, small intestine, especially the duodenum. Okay, so that's where chemical digestion occurs, right? Now, if you look at the digestive system of the human, okay, it's a combination of different organs along with three glands. Okay, so so you know how the digestive system works, right? So you have the buccal cavity, that's your mouth, and then it goes into the pharynx, and then it's going to come down your esophagus, then the stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and finally anus, right? Now, this belongs to the digestive system. Along with that, there are three glands as well. So you all should know what are the three glands, and it's better if you're and you have to know the functions as well. So the three glands are the pancreas, the liver, as well as the salivary glands. Now, when we take in food, okay, so when we take food into our mouth, um, chemical. Okay, there's a question. Will chemical digestion take place in the mouth? Yes, chemical digestion takes place in the mouth as well because the enzyme ptyalin is involved. So yes, it does take place in the mouth. Okay, so where was I? Right. So when it's the buccal cavity, okay, it's going to be the salivary gland that's going to be releasing the enzymes. And then when it comes to the digestion that's taking place in the pancreas, sorry, digestion that's taking place in the small intestine, especially the duodenum, we are going to be having enzymes from the pancreas. Okay, now what about liver? What's happening in the liver? Why is liver an important gland? Because there is something that is important for digestion in the digestion that is produced by the liver. May I know what that is? Yes, very good. Bile. So bile is important, yes, for digestion. So what does bile do? Y'all can tell me. What is the use of bile? So bile is something that makes, the excretion stink as well. So apart from that, yes, it does break down food. What does it break down? Yeah, lipids. Yes, bile breaks down lipids. Okay. Then there are three main functions of the digestive system. Okay, so you don't have to sit down and study this. Okay, so these are simple things that you know. What are the three main things? So first of all, food digestion occurs. Okay, so it helps you to digest the food, and then it's going to be helping you to absorb the digested end products, as well as finally, it's going to be removing the undigested materials. Isn't that simple? So first you eat, and then food digests. Then after that, it gets absorbed, and then all the unwanted materials is excreted. Okay, right. If any of y'all have any doubts, you can drop a message. Any doubts? If it's clear, please let me know. Is it clear? If you all have any doubts, you can ask. Okay, then. So if there's no doubts, I'm moving on. All right. So we have the digestive system here. Okay, so it's important that you all know how to label this. Okay, so sometimes they can give you maybe, I think you all can see my cursor, yeah, maybe only this part, and they can ask you to label it. So you must be able to label it, right? Okay, so I have a question. May I know a part, okay, that is a part of this alimentary canal, which is going to be common for both the respiratory system as well as the digestive system? So that this part over here, right? It's common for both respiratory system as well as digestive system. Yes, it's the pharynx. Okay. Mm, right. So here you have the salivary gland. Okay. And then we are going to be having the liver that's going to be producing bile. And then we have the pancreas. Okay. So these are the three glands. Now, may I know? Now, the liver is the one that's producing bile, right? So, is liver the one who's going to be secreting bile? Who is going to be secreting the bile? May I know who secretes bile? Yes, it's the gallbladder. I only have one student answering the questions. Can others also please speak up? Like, please do answer the questions. Okay? Right. Then, moving on. Okay. So, digestion is going to be taking place happening in the mouth as well as the stomach and the small intestine. Okay, so sorry for the disturbance. Right. Okay. Um, yeah, so digestion occurs in three places: the mouth, the stomach, as well as the small intestine. Right. So, in the mouth, okay, we have starch being converted to maltose. So, starch is going to be, so a tyalin enzyme, which we also call it as salivary amylase, is going to be acting on starch and converting it to maltose. So, may I know what kind of sugar is maltose? May I know what kind of sugar is maltose? Okay, I'll wait for y'all to answer. So you know carbohydrates is categorized into three, right? As monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. So what type is maltose? Okay, maltose is a type of disaccharide. Okay, yes, I have people answering. Yes, it's a type of disaccharide. So if you have monosaccharides, it's glucose, galactose, and fructose. So disaccharide is maltose, lactose, as well as sucrose, right? Yes. So now, um, I'm not going to be describing about the things that they have given in the textbook. Okay, so they have just under this part they have spoken about the mouth. Basically, they have told that there are teeth. There is this tongue attached to the floor. So I'm not going to be explaining all of that because those are things we all know, right? So, anyways, food is going to be moved into the stomach through peristaltic move. So now the food in the mouth. Okay, so it's going to be forming. Okay, like in a shape we call that as a bolus. So that's going to be pushed to the back of our mouth with the help of our tongue. Okay, so tongue helps us to mix the food, with the saliva, as well as it's going to be providing a medium for this enzyme reaction to take place. Now, I hope you guys know what is peristaltic movement. So, peristaltic movement is something that happens in our esophagus. Right, so it's like this contraction and relaxation movement that happens, which is going to be helping the food move down the esophagus. So esophagus, we can also call it as the food pipe. So it takes the food approximately 5 to 7 seconds to reach to the stomach all the way from the mouth. Okay. So now there is now you all told me that pharynx is a common pathway for both the respiratory tract as well as the digestive tract, right? So what is the part of our body which stops the food from going into the respiratory tract? So there is something, okay, that's going to be blocking the respiratory tract while we swallow food. What is that? Yes, that's right. Others also can answer. So Zainab has given me the answer. Others also can answer. May I have the answers? Y'all can answer it. What is that part called? Okay, epi. Okay, that's short. Yes, the epiglottis. Right. Okay, good. Fine. So now the stomach, the food, okay, the bolus has come to the stomach now. Okay. Now in the stomach, we are going to be having gastric juice being secreted. Okay, so the stomach, so then this juice it gets secreted, and then digestion starts in the stomach. Okay. So now you all should know one important thing. The protein now basically in the stomach, protein digestion happens. Okay. Now in the mouth, the starch is going to be converted to maltose, nothing else. So lipids are not digested, and the proteins are not digested, nothing. Only starch. The starch is being converted to maltose. That's it. Now maltose is not the ultimate end product, right? Now maltose can be broken down into monosaccharides. So you should know in which areas it's going to be, like where it stops. So in the mouth, it's just maltose. Now, when we come to the stomach, it's only protein digestion. Okay, and also remember the protein is not completely converted to its building unit, okay, to its simple compound. So, may I know what's the building unit of protein? Now, finally, when protein digestion happens, ultimately it's going to be giving us a product, no? The end product. So, may I know what that is? The building unit of protein. That's right. Yes. Okay, you guys are interactive. Okay, good. Yes, amino acid. Amino acid is the final end product of protein. So you can see here in the stomach, it's being converted to polypeptides. So polypeptide is like, so you see protein. Let me draw this here. Okay. All right. So protein is made up of small chains like this. Okay. Now, if this is going to be an amino acid, I hope you guys can see it. So if this is one amino acid, these amino acids are going to be forming chains like that, right? That chain is called a polypeptide. So now protein is broken down into this polypeptide. So it's not entirely, being converted. So it's just breaking down and giving us polypeptides, right? Then finally, there's something called renin. So renin enzyme is also present in our stomach, but only for a particular time of our life. Okay, so it's not always going to be present there, and it's going to be helping us with the coagulation of milk. So, may I know during what time period are we going to be having this renin enzyme within us? Yes, during infancy, very good. Okay, right. So, when we are babies, we are going to be having renin enzyme that's going to be helping us to coagulate milk because that's the only food. We're only going to be consuming milk when we are kids, right? So, then you know now you have the bolus, right? So now what you swallow is the bolus. Now the bolus of food comes into the stomach. It's going to get mixed with the gastric juice, and finally it's going to be giving us chyme. So chyme is acidic. Okay, anyways, you all don't have to know that. Now let's see what is present in chyme. So there are 5 compounds that you can find in the chyme, right? So we have water, minerals, vitamins, partially digested protein, as well as digested and undigested carbohydrates. You all can't see that part because of this, right? Me go back. Okay, here. Okay, still it's not visible. Anyways, so we have water, minerals, vitamins, partially digested proteins, as well as digested and undigested carbohydrates. So, what is the digested carbohydrate that's present? May I know that? Yes, the digested carbohydrates. No, the digested carbohydrate that we have is maltose. Remember maltose from the previous, what happened in the mouth? Right, okay. So, Now let's get back to gastric juice. All right. So now gastric juice has HCl, hydrochloric acid, as well as pepsin enzyme. Okay. So hydrochloric acid is going to be helping us activate the pepsin enzyme. So pepsin enzyme, this is a little bit of okay, I'm not going to add new terms and confuse you guys. So initially this pepsin is going to be in a inactive stage. Okay, so we call that as pepsinogen, but you all don't need that, right? So initially pepsin is going to be an inactive stage, and the release of HCl is going to be activating the pepsin enzyme. So the pepsin enzyme is going to be acting on protein and converting it into polypeptides. Okay, right. So if they ask you in the exam, what does the gastric juice contain? You have to write hydrochloric acid and pepsin enzyme. Now I wrote HCl in short form. So in the exam, you all better write the whole thing as hydrochloric acid, okay? Right. Then we are moving on to digestion in the small intestine. Okay. Now, may I know in which part of the small intestine does digestion take place? May I know in which part of the small intestine does digestion take place? Duodenum, yes. Okay, there is a question. Does hydrochloric acid inhibit the function of salivary amylase? Okay, now that is actually irrelevant here. Okay, so I'm not going to explain anything that is not needed because now y'all are nearing the exam, right? So no point in going too deep. Just know what's there in the textbook. Whenever they test you whatever is there on the textbook. They won't test you anything out of the syllabus, right? And also this paper is going to be made in such a way that all of you all can pass. And the best students can get an A. So don't think too deep. Okay, just know that salivary amylase is going to be converting starch to maltose. So you don't have to go deep into that. Yes, the duodenum. Okay. Now I wanted to do this, right? Okay. Now I'm going to be drawing the pancreas, right? All right. So now this is the pancreas. Okay. And these are called the pancreatic duct. So you have pancreatic enzymes which are going to be released. So this is the pancreas, and this is going to be the pancreatic duct. Now this is the bile duct. Okay, so this is directly coming from. Okay, first of all, let me label this. Okay, now this is the bile duct, and may I know from where is this duct coming from? From which organ? So there is an organ that is joined here. Okay, so may I know what organ that is? Liver. No, it's not the liver. No, not the liver. Okay, this is a tricky question they can add to the exam. Yes, that's right. The gallbladder. Okay, so you guys have to know that bile is produced by the liver. Okay, so bile is being produced by liver, but it's being secreted by the gallbladder. So liver produces bile and it is stored in the gallbladder. So the one that's actually going to be releasing the bile is going to be the gallbladder, right? So if they ask you a question where the bile is produced, answer is liver, correct. But if they ask you what releases bile, then you have to write gallbladder. Yes, correct. Sarah, right? Yeah, gallbladder. Okay. So now what happens is, take a look at this part. Now the bile is coming. Okay, so I think y'all can see the right. So bile comes here. So bile is coming like this, and we have the pancreatic duct coming like this, and they are going to be forming a common duct like this. Okay, so they are going to be forming a common one. So you can see the pancreatic enzymes are going to come from here, and the bile is going to be coming from here, and they are going to be forming a common duct. Okay, now this common duct is going to be having both bile as well as pancreatic enzyme, and it's opening into the duodenum. Okay, I forgot to label this. Okay, so it opens into the duodenum, and you can see where it's opening. It opens at the midpoint of the duodenum, at the center. So exactly at the midpoint is going to be opening, and this is the place where digestion is going to be occurring, right? So digestion occurs in this place, and duodenum is the initial part of the small intestine. So if you look at, so I'm just going to draw like this, okay? Imagine this is the small intestine. There are three parts. Okay, so the frontmost part, the first part is the duodenum, and that's where the digestion is going to be taking place. Okay, all right. So is that clear? Any doubts in here? Any doubt? Okay, I hope that's clear. The duodenum. Okay, all right. So, um, which part exactly? All right. So then this is, I was telling that this is the bile duct, okay, and this is the pancreatic duct, and they are both going to be opening into they are going to have form a common duct. That common duct is going to be releasing the enzymes into the duodenum from its middle point. Okay, so the digestion is going to be occurring in the duodenum. Okay, digestion occurs in the duodenum, and also small intestine has three parts. Okay, so you have duodenum, uh, ileum, jejunum, okay, the parts like that. So duodenum is the first part, the initial part of the small intestine. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Right. Okay, so someone is asking if digestion will stop in the duodenum. That's right. Yes, digestion stops in the duodenum. So finally, everything is going to be converted to everything is going to be broken down in the duodenum. Okay. Okay. I don't know why my screen keeps freezing. All right. Okay, so this is for y'all to answer. May I know the end products of carbohydrate digestion? So you tell me the answer, I can write it here. Fuzz. Okay, I'm getting a lot of answers. Not maltose. Come on. Yes. Monosaccharides is the answer, not starch. Glucose. Yeah, glucose is right. So glucose is a type of monosaccharide. Okay. So the final product is monosaccharide. Okay. And what about proteins? What is protein going to break down into? Yes, that's right. Amino acids. Yes. And what about lipids? What is lipid going to break down into? Yes, very good. Fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, so you all have to know this, right? And better if you all know what enzymes are involved as well. Yeah, glycerol and fatty acids both should be written. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about the end products of food digestion. Okay, what happens to the end products of food digestion? What happens after digestion? May I know? Come on, it's simple. Right. So absorption happens after food digestion. Okay, so food is going to get absorbed, right? So absorption is going to be starting from which organ, may I know? It's very easy. Okay, that's a very easy question. Everyone knows that. Yeah, it starts from not okay, duodenum. Okay, duodenum is where digestion happens, but absorption, you guys better write it as small intestine. Okay, not specifically as duodenum. Yes, duodenum is a part of small intestine, but usually digestion happens in duodenum, right? So it's better if you write small intestine. Okay. So now we have certain compounds which are directly absorbed into the blood capillary. Okay, so we have mineral salts, monosaccharides like glucose, vitamins, amino acids. You can see they're simple compounds, right? They're simple compounds and they can be directly absorbed into the blood capillary. So you know, blood capillaries are going to be having thin walls, right? So blood capillaries have thin walls and they're easily absorbed. Okay, now the small intestine, it has certain adaptations, okay, in order to make it more efficient in absorption. May I know what are those adaptations? So I didn't include that in the presentation because um, I think all of you all would know that. So those are simple things, just think about it. You don't have to memorize those things, just think about it logically. There are certain adaptations in the small intestine that helps it to absorb. Yes, being a long tube, yeah. So what's the advantage of it being a long tube? The advantage is food is going to be moving very slowly through that long tube. So when food is going to be moving slowly, absorption is going to be taking place efficiently. So they can little by little absorb everything when it's going to be moving slowly because it's a long tube. Yes. And being thin wall, high vascularized, okay, that's also correct. So it has a very thin wall. Um, Okay, no, now the intestine doesn't have thin walls. There's a part in the intestine that's going to be having this. Right. You all have missed a very important part. Yeah, presence of circular folds. That's correct. So presence of permanent circular folds. Okay, so those circular folds are permanent. Okay, they're not going to be changing. Okay, so now for example, if you look at the stomach, in our stomach also we have folds, but they are not permanent because once the food is going to be entering in the stomach, those folds are going to be stretching. But in the intestine, they are permanent. And yes, presence of villi. So there are tiny finger-like projections in the intestine called villi. So, okay. So there are, if this is the intestine, okay. So there are tiny finger-like projections called villi. So this villi is going to be helping us absorb material. So you can see minerals, salts, vitamins, they're all going to be absorbed by villi. Now, if you take a microscopic view of this villi, okay, so you have tiny, more tiny projections like this. So if this is the villi also has tiny projections called microvilli. So they are also going to be helping us absorb the nutrients well. Okay, so you all know that. Not bad. All right. Now tell me this. Fatty acids and glycerol. Now fatty acids and glycerol are quite big molecules. Okay, they are not going to be directly absorbed by the blood capillaries. So may I know? Can you all fill in the blanks? What are they absorbed into? Yeah, I have gotten. You guys have typed really good answers for the intestine part. I'm not being sarcastic, like the answers are really good. Okay. Yes. Lacteals. They are going to be absorbed into lacteals. And from lacteals, where do they go? So the fatty acids and glycerol are going to be absorbed by lacteals, and from lacteals, they're going to go somewhere else. Where's that? No, 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 not the liver. Yeah, the blood capillaries. Okay, yes, they will eventually go to the liver. So someone has studied too much, I think. Yeah, I don't know who's that person. Yeah. uh, Liver part is now what happens is the nutrition, the blood that's going to be having nutritions, so when the blood is going to be absorbing all the nutrients, we are going to be having a blood that is rich in nutrients, so that is going to be sent to the liver, and from the liver only, it's distributed to the parts of the body. That is correct, yes. But now I'm asking a completely different question, right? So fatty acids and glycerol, they get absorbed into lacteals, and from lacteals, they are going to be going into blood capillaries. Okay, so know that. All right. Now, here they have given a little bit about glucose. Okay, right. So you can see I've written it in a very short way. Now, what happens is when you have high glucose content in your blood, okay, so it's going to be converted to glycogen. Now, may I know what is the enzyme that is in charge of converting glucose to glycogen? Basically, the enzyme that is in charge of reducing the glucose level in blood. Yes, very good. Insulin. Yeah. So insulin is the enzyme that's going to be doing this, right? So glucose is converted to glycogen and it's stored in the liver. Okay, all right. Now, may I know what type of a carbohydrate is glycogen? What? Glucogen? What is glucogen? Yes, it's a polysaccharide as well as it's a storage carbohydrate, right? So it's a type of storage compound. Okay, good. Yes. So what happens is when glucose level increases, it's going to be converted to glycogen and stored in the liver. Okay, which is why we are not supposed to take a lot of sugar. Okay. Now, when the glucose level is low, the glycogen that is present in the liver is converted to glucose and they are going to be sending it to the blood. So, may I know what hormone is in charge of that? Okay, I'm sorry. Initially, I said enzyme. Insulin is a hormone, all right, not an enzyme. Okay, what is this? Glucogen? No. What is glucogen? May I know the hormone which is in charge of this conversion from glycogen to glucose? Come on, people. Glucogen. Glucogen. It's glucagon. Okay. No, 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 no. No, no alpha cells here. Please don't bring alpha cells. Glucagon. Okay. Glucagon is the hormone. So it's a GLUCAGON. Glucagon. Okay. So please be mindful of the spelling. I got so many different varieties of spellings here. You can't write like that. Ne? So it's glucagon. Okay. So please be thorough with the spelling. Right, okay. So glucagon breaks down glycogen, converts it into glucose, and sends it to the blood. Right. In the book, it says glucogen. Okay, so if it says glucogen in the book, then write like that. It's actually called glucagon, but okay, whatever is in the textbook, better write that. Okay. Right. Then moving on. Okay, so we have the diseases which are going to be associated with the digestive system. Okay, now I'm not going to be going deep into the diseases and I'm not going to be explaining it one by one, because usually in the paper they just ask you for examples. Like, for example, they'll give you constipation and they'll be like, what system is it associated with? Or sometimes they can, if there's a essay question on digestive system, they can ask you, questions like, what are name two diseases associated with it, with the system, okay, like that. So they wouldn't go deeper into questioning about this. Better if you all know about it, but maybe not too deep, okay. Maybe just read through all the diseases which are with the associated systems, right? Okay, so we have gastritis, constipation, typhoid, diarrhea. Okay, may I know what causes gastritis? It's very simple, okay. It's like common sense, basically. I'm pretty sure every one of you all here would have at least experienced gastritis once in your lifetime. So may I know what causes gastritis? Give me two reasons. Any two reasons? Skipping meals, yes. Yes, when you starve yourself. Spicy food, yeah, spicy food, acidic food. Then mental stress, especially these days, okay. You should make sure that you have a lot of food and maybe not go into the gastritic state. Yes. Smoking, alcohol consumption. Yes, good. Now, may I know how can you prevent gastritis? Mucus inflammation. May I know what? How can you prevent gastritis? Okay, y'all don't have to type that. So, okay, milk of magnesia. Yeah, that's okay. Yes, you can drink milk of magnesia. Yes, but I said prevention. So, like, not skipping meals. Okay, having your food on time, right? And you should actually manage your lifestyle. Like, try not to get, yes, healthy diets. Very good. Yes. So what happens when your gastritis worsens? So when your gastritis when it worsens, okay, the inner lining of your okay, so this is what happens, right? So when your gastritis worsens, okay, your stomach is going to be it's going to be secreting more hydrochloric acid, okay? So it's going to start secreting acid, and that's going to be harming the inner lining of the stomach, and it's going to be causing ulcers. So you're going to get painful ulcers in the stomach, and that's what is going to be causing the pain that you feel in your stomach. Okay. So constipation. What causes constipation? So diarrhea is the complete opposite of constipation, right? Constipation. Let's not waste a lot of time on this then. Yeah, so when you don't have enough water, okay, as well as when you postpone your bowel movements, what happens is when you postpone it, the feces is going to be there and the water is going to get absorbed, and it's going to become difficult to pass it out, right? And also sometimes when you try hard and push it out, it's going to come with blood as well. It's going to be hurt in the inner walls. Okay. Then typhoid fever is a type of fever that is going to be spreading through, when you consume this food from the street food, food that's going to be exposed to a lot of flies. So it's a food related disease, right? So you have to be careful, and you should make sure that the food is clean whatever you all are eating. And again, diarrhea also happens. So during diarrhea, what happens? You're going to be passing feces, and it's going to be in the liquid state. Right. So during this time, dehydration can occur because you're going to be losing a lot of water from the body, a lot of electrolytes, right? So again, typhoid and diarrhea, for that, to avoid these kind of diseases, you should make sure that whatever you're consuming, the food should be good, right? Clean. Okay. Moving on. Okay, now we come to the process of respiration. So I'll just make it fast because we have a lot to discuss. Right. So when it comes to respiration is going to be happening in three stages. Okay, the first one is the gas exchange between. Okay, I'll give you guys some time to breathe. So now we are coming from digestion. Okay, we're done with the digestive system, and now we have come to respiration. Okay, breathing. Right. So there are three stages in respiration. So first of all is the gas exchange between the external environment and your lungs. So that's when you're breathing. Okay, so you're going to be inhaling the air. Then what happens? That inhaled air is going to be getting exchanged in the alveoli. Okay, that's our respiratory, this respiratory surface. Then finally, you're going to be having cellular respiration. Okay, so now let me discuss this. Okay. So in the first stage of respiration, that's basically you breathing. Okay, now this is your nose and you're inhaling air. Okay, and that's gonna travel all the way to your lungs. Okay, so I don't know, my lungs look weird. Please don't mind that. So that's going to be the first stage. Okay, so you're going to be exchanging air from the external environment. So you're inhaling and you exhale. Inhale, exhale, that's the first stage. Now, what happens in the lungs? So, if I'm going to be taking a lung, so within the lung, the bronchi comes, and the bronchi is going to be branched like this into bronchioles. And each bronchiole is going to be having sacs like this called alveoli. So this is the first stage. First stage is first you breathe in. Second stage. Okay. So now the second stage is what's going to be happening in the alveoli. Okay. So now let's zoom in. Now I'm going to take this as my alveoli. Okay. So this is my alveoli. Okay. Now here I have atmospheric air. Okay. Now here I have atmospheric air. And surrounding the alveoli, I'm going to be having blood capillaries. So this alveoli, it's highly vascularized. Okay. Highly vascularized means it's going to be having a large number of blood capillaries. So having a large number of blood capillaries makes it easy for the gas exchange to occur. Okay. Now, here you're going to be having air. So in this place, okay, I think my screen is okay. So in this place, we have the air, and in this place, we are going to be having the blood. Now there is a sort of a gradient. Okay, so there is a difference. So I hope you guys know what is diffusion. Diffusion means materials moving from high concentration to low concentration. So in air, so yeah, obviously we're going to be talking about two things. We have oxygen as well as carbon dioxide. So here also we have oxygen and carbon dioxide. May I know the concentration of oxygen in inhaled air? Now remember, this is air, all right? This is the alveoli air. This is the blood capillary. So may I know the concentration of oxygen in inhaled air? Is it high or low? Yes. Yes. Okay. So oxygen is going to be high and carbon dioxide is going to be low. What about in the blood? It's the opposite, right? Okay, in the blood, it's going to be opposite. So in the blood, oxygen level is going to be low and carbon dioxide concentration is high. So what happens? Then you're going to be having a gradient forming. Okay, so there's a gradient. So then oxygen is going to be diffusing like this from high concentration to low concentration, and carbon dioxide is going to be diffusing this way. high concentration to low concentration. So you can see, right? Oxygen moves in to the blood capillaries, while carbon dioxide is going to be moving out of the blood capillary. Right, okay, the screen is a bit, okay, so oxygen moves in and carbon dioxide moves out. So this is the second stage that is going to be between the alveoli as well as the blood capillary. Okay, now we have the third stage, 21%. Okay, that's specific. I don't need, okay, don't need percentages. Okay, if you all want to know the percentages, you can, but that's not important, okay? You just have to know how it happens, right? Then moving on to the third stage. Third stage is cellular respiration. Okay. Now here what happens is, I think my screen is a bit laggy. Is my screen laggy for you guys? May I know if it's laggy? And I can write things slowly. Is it lagging for you all? Mm, yes, is it lagging? No. Ah, okay. Okay, it's not lagging. Okay. A little bit. Okay, fine. Right. So now we have cellular respiration. Okay. So now here what happens is, now we have the blood capillary that is coming. Okay. And these are going to be the cells. Right. So these are the cells now. Okay. Cells. Now, in this particular blood, now the oxygen concentration is high, right? Because from respiration, oxygen concentration is high and carbon dioxide concentration is low. So what happens in the cells? In the cells, oxygen concentration is going to be low and carbon dioxide concentration is going to be high. Am I right? Now this blood capillary is directly coming after, from the lungs. So like after the gas exchange has taken place, it's coming here. So then obviously oxygen level is going to be high and carbon dioxide level is going to be low. Now in the cells, in our body cells, oxygen level is always going to be low, carbon dioxide level is high. Therefore, again, there is a diffusion gradient. So according to that, the diffusion is going to be occurring in opposite directions. So how is that happening? So oxygen is going to be coming from the blood capillary to the cells, and carbon dioxide is going to be going from the cells to the blood capillaries. So now, when the blood capillary is going to be leaving the cells, okay, it's going to be leaving with deoxygenated blood. That means less oxygen. Okay, so these are the three stages of respiration. Did you all understand this? Any doubts in here? Any doubts? Any doubts? Ah, okay, all right. Okay, then, if there are no doubts, then I'll be moving on. Okay, right. Now, so you all should know the things, okay? So gas exchange between external environment and lungs, then in alveoli, as well as cellular respiration, right? Now we are going to be talking about the changes that occur when inhaled air passes through your nasal cavity. So when the inhaled air is going to be passing through your nose, basically, okay, it's going to be undergoing certain changes, right? So first of all, air is going to get humidified. So that means a lot of moisture is going to be added to the air, and then the air is going to become warm, because our body temperature, the average body temperature of a human is 30, basically 36 to 38. So approximately around 37 degrees Celsius, that's the average body temperature, right? 37, 37.5. So outside, let's say external, temperature is 25 means when it goes inside, it's going to be increasing, right? So therefore, warming up of inhaled air takes place, and finally, removal of waste from inhaled air. So there is a particular part in our nose that's going to be helping trap waste from the inhaled air. What is that? There are these things in our nose that's going to be helping us trap these dirt, dust particles that's coming from the inhaled air. What is that? Okay, cilia. No, we don't have cilia in our nose. And also remember, cilia is microscopic, okay? Uh, Mucus. Okay, good. Yes, mucus. But there's another one. Okay, nasal hair. Why do we have hair in there? You know, in our nose. It's basically to trap, that is to trap the inhaled air to help us vomit as well as to trap these dirt particles. I mean, mucus also helps us, but both of them, right? Okay, then let's move on. Okay, right. Okay, so now we have inspiration as well as expiration. So I've just written it in point forms. Okay, so you all have to know this. If they ask you to explain the process of inspiration, just think like this, right? So obviously the volume of your lung has to increase when you inspire air. Okay, so in order to make the volume of your lungs to increase, if you want to increase the volume of your lungs, your thoracic cavity should increase. So thoracic cavity is the region, okay, that is, the region where the lung is located, that's called your thoracic cavity. So that should increase because you need more air. And then intercostal muscles are contracting and the rib is going to be moving up. So your ribs move up and your sternum moves forward. So you all know what are intercostal muscles, right? Let me show you. So if this is like your lung, no, let me use another color. It's not okay. So if this is your lung, let's say, okay, they look weird, fine. If this is your lung, here you're gonna have muscles, right? So you have the ribs and the muscles. These are the ribs means these lines I'm drawing, these are your intercostal muscles. So you have them on both sides. These are ribs. So I'm just drawing like a cross section of the rib. It comes like this, okay? So between the ribs, you're going to be having these muscles, right? So these are called as the intercostal muscles. So they are going to be contracting. So when the intercostal muscles contract, okay, your rib is going to be moving in front. It's going to move up, and your sternum. Sternum is, there's this thing. If this is your rib cage, in the center you have a part like this, right? The center. Please don't mind my drawing. This particular region, this particular bone that's right in front of your, the midpoint of the rib cage, this bone, that's called the sternum, right? So the sternum is going to be moving forward. So when the sternum moves forward, the lung capacity increases, right? Then your diaphragm is the bottom part. So there is this part like this. Diaphragm is like a part of, it's a part of muscle. It's at the bottom like this. So diaphragm is going to be reducing its curvature. Okay, so reducing its curvature means it's going to be like this, right? So the diaphragm Usually the diaphragm is a muscle and it's actually like this. This is the diaphragm. So when you're going to be, so normally at rest, diaphragm is going to be like this. Okay. But when you inspire, so when you're going to be taking in air, the diaphragm reduces its curvature, becomes like this. Okay. Now when you're exhaling, the diaphragm will relax further and it will become like that. Okay, not like that. That's just, it looks like a mountain. Not that much, but I hope you guys get the idea. Okay, so you can see this is in the normal state, right? So during when you're inspiring, it reduces its curvature, becomes smaller, and then when you exhale, it's going to increase its curvature, right? Okay. So then, um, so the opposite happens when you exhale air. Okay, during expiration. So the volume of the lung is going to be decreasing. Then the volume of the thoracic cavity will decrease. The intercostal muscles, they're going to be relaxing. Then the sternum and ribs, they come back to the original position. So when you inspire, rib is moving up, sternum forward. So when you're expiring, they come back to the original region. And then diaphragm relaxes and become more curved, what I drew. Okay. Any doubts? Oh, in the book it says cilia. Mm, okay then. If it says cilia, then go ahead, write cilia, then no problem. Uh, why have they told cilia? Okay, fine. Okay, so student told me that in the book it says that the nasal cavity has cilia, which is going to be trapping the dust particles. So yes, right. You can write. Oh, okay, okay, okay. So cilia is in the upper region of the nasal cavity, right? So if you look at your nose, okay, you see the nasal hair, right? That is different. That is the nasal hair. That is not cilia, okay? So when you go further up, like deeper, there you have tiny, tiny particles like, these cilia. They're like projections from the wall. Yes. Okay. So now any doubt from this part? Inspiration and expiration? You guys got it? Yes, okay. Where's the rest? Are you sleeping? Okay, so you can see the diagram. So this is the diagram that is given in your book. Okay, so you can see during inspiration, you're going to be inhaling air. So the sternum ribs move up, and you can see the curvature of the diaphragm. So when you're expiring, you can see how the curvature of the diaphragm has increased. Okay, and then they come back to the ribs and everything come back to the original position, and air is going to be sent out. Okay, then right. Now take a look at this. Adaptations that is going to be present for efficient gas exchange. Right. Now, now they have given you two different types. Okay, so they've given you adaptations for efficient. So now what? Now adaptation that a respiratory surface is supposed to have for gas exchange. Now this is a common thing. So when you say respiratory surface, it's common. Now, for example, if it's for humans, we have lungs. If it's simple organisms like cnidarians, they are going to be having the body wall. And if you're going to be looking at arthropods, they are going to be having a completely different system, okay, like a tracheal system, right? So different. So you can see this is a common thing. This is what is given for humans, adaptations of the alveoli for efficient gas exchange. So when you're studying this, you can compare these two in a table. So you can make a table like this. You can compare and study. So let's look at the first one. For efficient gas exchange, surface should be moistened and permeable for gas exchange. Yes, so the surface should be moistened. Why? So that the gases like carbon dioxide and oxygen, they can easily dissolve in this and they can, transfer. So surface should be moistened as well as permeable for gas exchange. So let's take a look. Do we have that in alveoli? Yes, we have. Number 3, moist alveolar surface. So alveolar surface is moist. Okay, so there is like a there's thin layer of liquid there, thin film of liquid where the gas is going to get dissolved. Okay, then talking about the second point, surface should be thin for diffusion of gases. Yes, the surface area should be thin. Now, you all should know diffusion is going to be happening across thin surface areas. If it's a thick surface area, okay, now for example, we have our skin, right? Our skin is very thick. Diffusion cannot occur through our skin. Now, how is sweat coming outside? That's through sweat glands, no, not by diffusion, no. So when diffusion is happening, it should be a very thin layer. So let's look at alveoli. Yes, look at this thin alveolar wall. So you can see thin, okay. Then third one, a larger surface area to exchange large volume of gas according to the needs of animals. Now, for example, if you're going to be taking, a nidarian, for example, it's actually a simple animal, okay, and almost all of its body cells is going to be in contact with the water, no? It's going to be with the contact with the external atmosphere environment. So therefore, external environment. Therefore, they don't need a special respiratory system to exchange, gases. They can directly do it through their body wall, right? But then when you look at humans, we are a large animal, right? So not now, all the cells in our body is not going to be in direct contact with the external atmosphere. So we need a special respiratory system. So that's why they are telling you the surface area to volume ratio should be large according to the needs of the animals. Right? So let's take a look at this. Yes, we have here presence of large number of alveolar sacs. So now alveolar sacs is going to be small and there is millions of alveolar sacs, okay, like millions, right? We have millions in our lungs, which means we are going to be having a large surface area. Okay, right, that is also now proved. Now let's look at the final one. Surface should be highly vascularized. Yes. So here also we have presence of a blood capillary network around alveoli, which is going to be making it highly vascularized. All right. So those are the points. Any doubts? So far, any doubts? Yes, y'all can answer. Let me know if you'll have any doubts. No doubt. Okay, then. I hope it's clear. Okay, all right. Now we are going to be having two types of cellular respiration. Okay. Now cellular respiration means what is happening between the blood capillary and the cells. Or basically now in us, in our body, it's blood capillary in the cell. If it's other animals, it's going to be the environment as well as the cells, right? So we have two types of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic. May I know the difference between them? What is present in aerobic respiration that is not there in anaerobic respiration? What is that? Yes, aerobic respiration needs oxygen while anaerobic respiration doesn't. So it's very important that you all know this equation. So glucose and oxygen is going to be breaking down to give you carbon dioxide as well as water and energy. Okay. Okay. Now moving on to anaerobic respiration. Right. So what is this anaerobic respiration called? There's a special name given to it. Respiration happening in the absence of oxygen has a special name. What is that? Let me give you all a clue. It starts with F. Starts with the letter F. What is that term? Yes, that's right. Fermentation, right? So whatever is happening in the plants is called ethyl alcohol fermentation, and whatever is happening in animals is called lactic acid fermentation. So you can see in both the place. So now in aerobic respiration usually happens in you know now you can see glucose, oxygen gives us carbon dioxide and water. So it happens in all living, living matter. So even in plants, animals, it's going to be happening, right? So anaerobic respiration takes place in the absence of oxygen. In the in plants, it's going to be called as ethyl alcohol fermentation, giving you ethyl alcohol. And in animals, it's called lactic acid fermentation, where glucose breaks down to give you lactic acid. So you can see in this equation, you have oxygen. In this equation, you don't have oxygen, right? Okay, so it's important that you all know the equations. Okay, then okay, now we are going to be moving on to the diseases, right? So again, you don't have to dive deep into the diseases, but just read and keep. Okay, sometimes they can test you on MCQs and stuff. So uh, I'm not going to, because if I go to explain that, it's going to take a long time. So I've just given a, like in short, so this is like an example as to how y'all can make your short notes. So now you can see here, common cold is caused by a virus. Okay, and okay, so look at this bronchitis. So bronchial inflammation is caused by virus or a bacteria. Now look at pneumonia. Pneumonia also can be caused by virus or bacteria. Tuberculosis caused by bacteria. Asthma is going to be caused by dust, pollen, sawdust, fur. So the main idea of this is that just at one glance, okay, you can get an idea about the agents which are causing this disease. Okay, so you can know, pneumonia can be caused by both. Even bronchitis can be caused by both. But common cold is only caused by a virus, tuberculosis by a bacterium. So likewise, try to make short notes and study these things. But don't, go too deep into it. Okay. Then, right. Now let's come back to the process of, okay. Now we are coming back to the process of excretion. Okay, now this is quite important. So this is not a target. Okay, so if it doesn't come to the paper, okay, you guys can't blame me. So this is actually it's important if you all maybe may pay more attention to this. Okay, so I'm not telling it will exactly appear on the paper, but better if you all study this particular region, because it hasn't been tested the past few years, at least not in the essay. So there are chances that this might appear in the essay paper, because last year it was about the brain, so the nervous system, which is why I'm not teaching it this time. And before that, they had asked about the circulatory system. Okay, so excretion they haven't. So like digestion, excretion, homeostasis, those kind of stuff. Better if you all pay more attention, right? Okay, now the process of excretion. Okay, so you guys tell me, is this similar? So does feces, passing of feces, does it belong to excretion? Yes, it is an excretory material, but does it belong to excretion? Passing of feces. Okay, I'm getting answers. No, that's right. It's not a part. Yes, it is not a part of. It is not an excretory product. Yes, so that belongs to, yes, undigested food. Yes, so that's going to be belong to the digestive system. Okay, now what is the main excretory organ of our body? We call it as nitrogenous excretory organ. Mainly nitrogenous excretion is going to be done by that. May I know what that is? What part it is? Yes, okay, I'm getting answers. Yeah, the kidney. Okay, so now I've included the examples that they've given in the textbook. So these are very important, right? So you should know what is metabolism. Metabolism is a sum of all the biochemical reaction taking place in our body. So that means under metabolism, we have something called catabolism and anabolism, which basically means building up substances and breaking down substances. So when you build up substances, you need ATP. ATP is going to be absorbed. When you break down substances, ATP is going to be released. So all these reactions, the addition of all these reactions is called metabolism, right? So removal of excretory products produced during metabolism from the body is called excretion. Yes, so the excretory products of metabolism is going to be called as excretion. Now, let's fill this. Okay, tell me. Excretory material, carbon dioxide, water vapor, lungs. What is the form of excretion? In what form is it exhaled? Okay, I think I just told the answer. Almost told the answer. This part, form of excretion from the lungs. Can I get the answer, please? Form of excretion from lungs. Come on. Why aren't the others answering? I only have like 4 students answering me. What about the others? What are you all doing? Yes, exhale. Yeah, that's right. From kidney. What is going to be released from kidney? I want answers. Don't keep quiet. If you all don't answer me, I'm going to pick random people. Okay. Then what about the skin? What is being released through the skin? Yeah, that's right. Sweat. Okay. Then, so this is an important point, right? Bile pigments that is released with feces is an excretory substance. Now, this is like a point, like a hidden point. Okay, I mean it's right there, but most of us wouldn't pay attention to it. So if it appears in the MCQ about bile pigments, we would definitely not write it as an excretory substance because we are like, okay, bile belongs to digestive system. No, digestive system is not a part of excretion. Blah blah blah. Yes, I know, but they've given it in the book. Bile pigment released with feces is an excretory substance. So please know that. Okay? Yes. Right. Then we are going to be looking at the kidney. Okay. So these are the 4 main things that you have to know about the kidney. Okay. I know they have given you all of these different parts. Okay, they have given you something called renal artery, then systemic artery, inferior vena cava, blah blah blah, but renal vein. But you have to know these 4 things. Okay, what is more important is a pair of kidneys. So you should know to label this. They can give you a picture of the kidney and ask you to label. I think I've included an essay question on this on the excretory system, so you all can try that out. I'll be sending the marking scheme, right? So kidneys you have, and then ureters. Okay, so from the kidney, the urine is going to come through these 2 lines, these 2 tubes sort of thing. They are called the ureters. And then from the ureters, they are going to be stored in your bladder. So from the bladder, you put it out through the urethra, right? So that's about the kidney. These are the main parts of the kidney. All right. Then uh, they have given you this longitudinal view of the kidney and location of nephrons in the kidney. Okay, let me. Okay, now take a look at this. Sometimes they can give you all this and you all have to answer. Okay, so now look at this renal artery. Okay, they have labeled it wrong because usually, okay, it's fine. So you all have to know renal artery, renal vein. So renal artery is what's going to be carrying oxygenated blood, and renal vein is what's going to be carrying deoxygenated blood. Okay, but they have labeled it like this. And these are called pyramids, then the cortex, then capsule, then the ureter, and everything. So you should know, you all see this pyramid sort of region, right? So actually, if you look at it, it looks like this. This is so you're going to have lines like this pyramid. Okay, so I'm going to draw it. So if this is going to be your renal pyramid, they're going to appear like this, right? So this is the pyramid, okay? This is your renal pyramid. There is going to be lines like this. Okay, like lines. So these lines are the nephrons. Okay, so the structural unit of a kidney is a nephron. So if they ask you what's the structural unit of a kidney, that's the nephron. So you can see this nephron, right? So this is the nephron. So this one line, and that's gonna go like this, like a worm, wiggly worm. So this entire thing is a nephron. So a collection of this nephron. So this nephron collection is going to be appearing as lines in the pyramid. Now what happens is, so you're going to be having several pyramids like this, right? So if this is your kidney, you're going to be having several pyramids like this. Now all these pyramids are going to be opening into something. Oh no, what happened? Okay. So now all these pyramids are going to be producing urine. Okay, so urine is going to be produced from these structural components, which are the nephrons, and they're going to be releasing the urine into this area. Okay, what is this area called? That is this particular area. I'm coloring it. What is that area called? That middle area. What do we call that? Mm, yes, that is the renal pelvis. So from the nephrons, it's going to be directly releasing it into renal pelvis. So from the renal pelvis, it's going to be flowing into the ureter. Okay, so you from renal pelvis to ureter to urinary bladder, and from there, urethra is going to go outside. I hope you all understood that part. Any doubts? Any doubts here? You all can speak up. Okay, I'm not going to beat you all. If you all have no doubts, you can say no doubts. No problem. Okay, crystal clear. Okay, thank you. Yes. So renal pelvis, and then yes, so that's what happens. So now, what is the structural unit of a kidney? What is the structural unit of a kidney? Neph. What is neph? Yes. Okay. Nephron. Nephron is the structural unit of a kidney. Right. Okay. Short, oh, okay, fine. Short form. Right. We all can't write short forms in the exam. No, if they ask you for nephron, you should write nephron. Okay, you can't write just neph. All right. So, moving on. This is the diagram they have given in the textbook. So, yes, I know it's quite confusing. All right. So, you have the collecting tube. And also, you all should know collecting tube is not a part of the nephron. Collecting tube is not okay. I don't think if that's mentioned in the textbook. If it's not mentioned in the textbook, don't write like that. If it's mentioned, then you all better know that. Okay, so it's not a part of the uh, nephron, right? Collecting duct. Anyways, so you have the glomerulus. That's a ball of blood capillary, and then you're going to be having the Bowman's capsule. Renal, here they have labeled it properly. Renal artery is where oxygenated blood is coming, and renal vein is where deoxygenated blood is going. Okay, but then the previous picture they had labeled it wrong, so be mindful of that. Okay, now I have given a very simple diagram of this. Okay, so take a look at this. Uh, So we have, so okay, so I'm going to start with this. This bit here is the glomerulus. I forgot to label that. Okay. That is the glomerulus. So the glomerulus is like a ball of blood capillaries. So it's like a ball of blood capillary, okay, where the filtration is going to be occurring. Now look at this. We have something called the afferent arteriole and we have the efferent arteriole. Now you should know afferent arteriole is going to be having a larger diameter compared to efferent arteriole. Okay, so this diameter is large compared to efferent arteriole. Efferent arteriole has a small diameter. Okay, and it's going to be joining all these blood capillaries. So afferent arteriole, that is this one, right? So this one, okay, right here is going to be having a larger diameter because it's going to be bringing in oxygenated blood. And this oxygenated blood is coming in high speed. Okay, so it comes in high speed and it gets filtered. So it comes and it's going to get filtered, right? Into the so it's going to get filtered and the filtered liquid is going to pass on to the Bowman's capsule. So filtered liquid from here goes to the Bowman's capsule. So the high pressure is going to be causing the filtration process. Okay. Then after filtration, the remaining blood is going to be passed in through the efferent arteriole. Okay. So from the efferent arteriole, it's going to be going to all these places. Okay. So you have, this is the proximal convoluted tubule. This is the distal convoluted tubule. So proximal is the front tubule. Okay, this is the distal convoluted tubule and you have the loop of Henle. Okay, loop of Henle, the collecting duct. And now where is this going? This collecting duct, all of them is finally leading to the renal pelvis. I told you I initially drew these pyramid-like structures. If you remember, I drew this pyramid. I told you there are striations like this, and finally it's going to be coming to the pelvis, right? So these lines, okay, that's the collecting duct. So you can see. So through this, it's going to be going to the renal pelvis, okay? Now, I hope you all understood the structure of this. Okay, is that clear? Is that clear? I can explain again if you all don't understand. Please give me a response. Is my internet slow or are you all answering? Is it clear? Okay. So you all want me to repeat? Okay, some of you all want me to repeat. Okay, all right. Okay. So now, this is this red color part that you all can see here. Try to zoom it. Okay. So the red color region that you all can see here is the glomerulus. Okay. So now what happens is blood is going to be coming in through the afferent arteriole with an A. Okay, so blood is going to be coming in through the afferent artery with an A that's going to be having a larger diameter. So it has a larger diameter because blood pressure is high. Okay, so blood pressure is high, it has a larger diameter and it's going to be helping with the filtration process. You all know, so right here in the glomerulus, blood is going to get filtered and and all the unwanted materials are going to be sent into the Bowman's capsule. I mean, not all unwanted, like certain materials are going to be sent into Bowman's capsule. So that material that's going to be filtered by the glomerulus, we call it as the glomerular filtrate. So glomerular filtrate is going to be there in this particular region, this curved area called the Bowman's capsule. Now Bowman's capsule is a part of the nephron. All right. So the blood capillary is a different system. This is a different system. Now what happens is right after afferent, all blood is going to come from afferent arteriole. Okay. So that's coming from the renal artery. Afferent arteriole. Then it's going to go to the efferent arteriole. Efferent arteriole with an E. So this has a very small diameter. Why? Because it's going to be having the filtered blood. Already blood is filtered. So filtered blood is going to go into efferent arteriole, and that is going to be finally, spreading, and it's going to be forming blood capillaries and surrounding the nephron. Okay. So then the rest is I've just labeled. Okay. This is the collecting duct. I think that part was confusing, I guess. So this is going to be the collecting duct. It's not visible. I zoomed in too much. Okay, so you have the collecting duct. The collecting duct. So the urine, finally, the glomerular filter is going to come like this. It's going to become urine, and urine is going to be going down like this through the collecting duct all the way to the renal pelvis. Okay, so earlier I drew that pyramid. No, there was I drew the kidney, and then it had pyramids like this. These lines that you can see are basically the nephron. That is the collecting duct of the nephron. So finally, urine is going to be released like this, and it goes into the pelvis. So that's what I meant here. Leads to renal pelvis. Okay, I hope it's clear now. Okay, I hope it's clear now. So moving on. All right. Okay. Now take a look at this. Now this part is the most confusing part. Okay, this is the urine formation. So I have put all of it into one chart. So if you guys want, you can take a screenshot of this and maybe write it down in a white sheet and study this. Okay, because this is a very effective way of remembering things. So when I was doing my A levels, right, this is the method that my sir taught me, and I'm teaching you guys now. Okay, so we had more complex things, but this is a simpler version, right? So I have drawn the nephron without the blood capillaries, because with the blood capillaries confusing. So now I have this is a nephron, right? So this is the nephron without the blood capillaries. So now urine formation is going to be having 3 steps, right? First is ultrafiltration, then we have selective reabsorption, then finally we have secretion. Now you guys tell me, where does ultrafiltration occur? Tell me where ultrafiltration is going to be occurring. What are the 2 parts involved in ultrafiltration? I just explained. I spoke about efferent arteriole. I told you filtration happens. Yeah, the glomerulus. So basically, I haven't drawn the glomerulus here because glomerulus is a part of the blood capillary system, right? So glomerulus filters the blood into the glomerular filtrate. Okay, now I want you all to give me an example of things which are not filtered. Don't look at the screen. It's mentioned in the screen, but I don't want you all to look at the screen. Tell me what is not filtered into blood. I mean, sorry, not filtered into the urine. Oh, I just gave the answer. Okay, platelets, yes. Because why? Because platelets are large. Yes, that's why they are not being filtered. What else? Uh, blood cells. Red blood cells are not filtered. Then proteins. So I think you all must have heard that some people, okay, with who have inefficient filtration, that is when their nephrons don't function properly, they get blood with the urine. Okay, the reason is because of this, because the filtration, is not done properly. Because if it's done properly, then blood cells will not get filtered into the glomerular filtrate, right? So if blood is coming, that means the filtration is not proper. Okay, anyway, so we have plasma protein and blood cells, they're not filtered. So what does the glomerular filtrate contain? So I have written it as 8 items here. Okay, so that's why I told, get a screenshot. Y'all can study it easier this way. So we have water, hormones, medicine, various iron, urea, glucose, vitamins, amino acids. Okay, so look at this. We have glucose also. Okay, we have all these items. Now what happens? Now take a look at this. Composition of glomerular filtrate is same as the composition of blood plasma. Okay, it is the same. I do agree, but it's a little bit different. Okay, because the certain items in blood plasma is going to be lacking in glomerular filtrate. Okay, but then in your textbook, it has been given that the composition of the glomerular filtrate is same as blood plasma, which means obviously blood plasma does not contain blood cells. No, so that's what they mean by that, right? So you're going to be having similar composition. Okay, so please know that. So if they give you in an MCQ, they can ask you which of the following has the same composition as blood plasma, and if glomerular filtrate is an option, go for it. Okay, then we talk about selective reabsorption. Right now, you can see during ultrafiltration, they have filtered all the water. Okay, hormones, medicine. So just forget about the others. Will you now just think about this? All glucose is filtered, all water is filtered. Okay. Now, what happens if all the water is going to be filtered? What happens to your body? Okay, which part am I supposed to repeat? Okay, meanwhile, the glomerular filtrate part. Okay, so glomerular filtrate is going to be having the same composition as blood plasma. Hold on, what happened? Okay, so glomerular filtrate is going to be having the same composition as blood plasma. Okay, so what I told is in the paper, if they're going to be asking you which of the following has a similar composition to blood plasma, then you all have to select glomerular filtrate. Okay, right. Then we have plasma pro. So these kinds of items are not filtered. Not filtered in the sense they are not coming into the glomerular filtrate. So obviously blood cells are not going to be there, because if the blood cells are also filtered, your urine is going to be red color. Blood is you're going to pee blood. Okay, and then plasma proteins also not filtered. So it's going to be having water, hormones, medicine, all these items. Okay, which is similar in composition to blood plasma. Right. Then moving on to selective reabsorption. Now I'm asking you, okay, someone wants me to show the previous page to take a screenshot. All right. Wait, hold on. Okay, you can take a screenshot. Let me know after you all are done. Okay, right. You all can add the screenshot to the group so that others can see. Yeah, it's better if you all do that. Whoever took a screenshot, please add it to the group. It will be helpful then. All right. So now we're talking about selective reabsorption. Right. So now I told you in the glomerular filtrate, we are having water and glucose. Now, what happens if all the water is going to be filtered into your urine? What will happen to your body? You're going to get dehydrated, right? You're going to be undergoing dehydration. Therefore, it's very important to reabsorb the water. Now, what happens if all the glucose is sent into the urine? Now you need glucose for energy, right? So after eating, if all the glucose is sent into the urine, then obviously you have no energy in your body. Okay, so we can't function properly without glucose. We need glucose to give us energy. To do anything, we need energy, right? So therefore, the second process is going to be selective reabsorption. Okay, so let's look at all the materials. So we are going to be having 100% glucose that's being absorbed. Okay, I can't zoom it for some reason. Okay, 100% glucose is absorbed, 90% water, all the medicines. Now, take a look at this. Even medicine is going to be in the glomerular filtrate. So it's easy, right? You can link it. Medicine is filtered, selective reabsorption, medicine is absorbed again. Now, if you are going to be taking Panadol or something, and what if it gets filtered? What if it's coming out of your urine? Then there's no point in taking the medicine, right? So it's again going to get reabsorbed in your nephron. And you can see again we have vitamins is going to get reabsorbed, salt, urea, yeah, a little bit of urea and uric acid also. So even though those are excretory substances, very tiny amounts, okay, very minute amounts are going to get reabsorbed. And finally, amino acids are also going to get reabsorbed. So you can link the items which is mentioned in the contents in the glomerular filtrate to selective reabsorption when studying. All right. Now we are moving on to secretion. Now secretion means the items in the blood is going to be sent into the nephron. Okay, so from the blood to nephron. Now I have drawn arrows to show that it's coming from blood to nephron. Okay, so I didn't draw blood capillaries because it would be confusing. So all these items are coming from the blood to the nephron. Okay, so what are the items? Medicine. Okay, again medicine is going to get secreted. Okay, so some of the medicine, ammonium ion. So I just wrote the ions like this, so it's easy for you all to study, right? So in the paper, please don't write H plus, K plus, okay? Please write potassium ion, ammonium ion, hydrogen ion, write it properly, right? So secretion part, we have medicine, ammonium ion, creatinine, potassium ion, hydrogen ion, and vitamin B. Now, what happens? Secretion is happening. Now, after that, the remaining liquid, okay, the remaining liquid is going to be called as urine. Now, urine is going to be coming into the collecting duct. Finally, it's going to be exiting the collecting duct and entering into the renal pelvis. Okay. So that is the whole story about urine formation. So what do you all do? You all revise this chart. Okay, study whatever is in this chart, because now the difficult part is studying all these examples. No, study the chart and then go back to the textbook and read it at least twice or thrice, your wish. If it once also, it's fine. So after studying the chart, go back, read it, and you will be comfortable with the whole urine formation, the whole the area of urine formation, right? So any doubts from here? Any doubts? If it's clear, we can move on. Okay, no doubts then, right? Okay, then next we are going to be talking about blood circulation. All right. So blood is going to be, so now when you take blood in a test tube and when you're going to be leaving it alone for some amount of time, okay, for a particular period of time, you're going to be noticing two suspensions like this, okay, two different items. So you are going to be noticing it separate into two parts, right? So it's going to be separating into plasma and it's going to be separating into corpuscles. Okay, now I want you all to link this. Remember, initially I told you all that the composition of glomerular filtrate is similar to the composition of plasma, right? And also, you know that glomerular filtrate has no red blood cells. Look at plasma. Does plasma have red blood cells? No, it doesn't. Corpuscles have red blood cells. Plasma doesn't. Okay, so when you all are studying, try to link it. Okay, because when you all link it to things like that, then it's going to be easier, right? So I hope you all understand what I told there. So plasma, you have more plasma than corpuscles. So plasma 55%, pale yellow, and corpuscle 45%, right? So what type of a tissue is blood? I've literally written it, but it's fine. You guys can tell me what type of a tissue is blood. Come on. Okay, it's a type of connective tissue. All right, then let's move on. Okay. So I have put this all in one chart. Okay. So I'm not going to go deeper and I'm not going to be teaching, the structures and everything. So let's take a look at this. So blood is going to be separated into two. You have the plasma, that was 55%. Then you have the corpuscles, that is 45%. Okay. So you can see corpuscles are divided into three types. Okay. So we have red blood cells, white blood cells, and we have platelets. Now, using your common sense, please tell me which one do we have in abundance? Which one do we have more in the corpuscles? Do we have red blood cells, or you can just write in short form, right? RBC, WBC, or platelets? Yeah, definitely RBC. What is responsible for the color of the RBC? What in RBC is responsible for its red color? Let's just finish this part quickly because there's a lot more to come. Yeah, that's right. Hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is the one that's going to be responsible for the red color. Okay. So again, you can take a screenshot of this. I've just written it like a short note. So in 1 millimeter, you're going to be having 5 million red blood cells. So lifespan of the red blood cells is going to be 4 months, and it's formed in the red bone marrow. Okay, so red blood cells are formed in the red bone marrow. Look at white blood cells. White blood cells are going to be formed in the bone marrow. Okay, so here they have given red bone marrow. Here they have just mentioned bone marrow. Okay, uh, now look at white blood cells. Look at the composition. You have more red blood cells than white blood cells. Look at the ratio, 600 is to 1. And also white blood cells are less in number, and it's a common sense thing also. You all know that when you have certain diseases, like for example, dengue, leptospirosis, when you have those kind of diseases, there is going to be a change in your white blood cell level as well as your platelet count. Okay, there's going to be a drastic drop in these kind of diseases. In some disease conditions, there's going to be a lot of white blood cells. Okay, so it's going to be changing according to that. And yes, white blood cells are going to be bigger compared to red blood cells, and they have nucleus. So you obviously, so if you look at your textbook, they've given you images of the types of white blood cells. So by looking at it, you know that they have a nucleus, because if you look at these neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, if you look at them, you can see like a nucleus that these cells have. Okay, so they have nucleus. And moving to platelets, they have no nucleus. Okay, so what are the type of corpuscles with no nucleus? The two types of corpuscle with no nuclei. What are they? I need answers. Come on. Two types of corpuscles, no nuclei. That's right. Red blood cells and platelets. Both of them have no nucleus, but white blood cells do. Okay, and look at this. Platelets, their lifespan is 5 to 7 days. Okay, and in 1 millimeter cube, you can find 400,000 to 150,000, and they have thromboplastin. Okay, now, what is this thromboplastin? Why do platelets need thromboplastin? What is thromboplastin gonna do? What is the purpose of it? Why do we need thromboplastin in platelets? Okay, I got an answer called solidify blood. Solidify blood? Yes. Yeah. The correct term is blood clotting. Okay, don't write solidified blood, right? Okay, not coagulation. Okay, I mean coagulation, yes, okay, similar thing, but use the term clotting, okay, for blood clotting. So when you get a wound, okay, so the scar formation, so blood clotting is to, to prevent the blood from flowing out. Okay, so for that we need platelets, which is mainly done by thromboplastin. So thromboplastin is the one that is in charge of forming the scab. All right. Now another question. If you look at red blood cells, okay, red blood cells have no nuclei. What is the main advantage of this? What is the advantage in that red blood cells have? Because they don't have a nucleus. What is the advantage? May I have answers? Okay, if I haven't read some of your messages, some of you have asked me to explain certain parts. I haven't seen it. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, y'all can answer now. Right. Uh, yes, okay. It provides a large surface area in order to absorb more oxygen. That's right. Okay, so when you don't have now the thing is, if you're going to be having a nucleus, right, things like respiration is going to be taking place. So therefore, like, because you have the mitochondria now, so if you look at a cell, nucleus, you're going to have a mitochondria, and it's going to be a mess, right? So therefore, okay, the question is, why don't they have a nucleus? So it's going to be a mess, and you will not have enough space to, transport oxygen. So therefore, lack of nucleus makes the RBC more efficient in order to transport oxygen. Okay, now take a look at white blood cells. White blood cells are separated into two as granulocytes and non-granulocytes. So granulocytes means the cells which are going to be having granules are going to be called as granulocytes. Now, y'all don't have to know what are these granules exactly, okay? Just know that the ones with granules are called granulocytes. They are neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils. Without granules are called non-granulocytes, which are lymphocytes and monocytes, okay? So that's it in here. So again, after studying the diagram, y'all can go to the picture, right? Okay. Now we have the heart. Now, this can be a little bit confusing. Am I right? How many of you all have found this confusing, especially the pulmonary artery part and the lungs, how the blood is going to the lung, how the blood is coming to the human? Pretty sure you all must have found it difficult. I mean, not difficult, not most of you all, but like kind of confusing. Yes, yeah. Yes, at some point we all have felt like that. Like, what are they trying to tell? Why is it? I mean, aren't arteries supposed to carry, oxygenated blood? What's happening? Okay, so first of all, before coming here, let me explain something very simple. Okay, hold on. So let's move on to the whiteboard. What's happening? Okay, some of you are trying to control the screen. Don't draw on the screen, okay? All right. Okay. Now, um, so we have the heart. Okay, so pay attention to this very carefully. Okay, it's very important. Pay attention, because if you pay attention to this, then the rest are going to be so easy, all right? Okay, now we are going to be having a blood vessel. Okay, so we have a blood vessel coming towards the heart, and here we have a blood vessel going away from the heart. So by definition, any blood vessel that supplies blood to the heart is going to be called a vein. Okay, so this is the basic definition. So any blood vessel that is supplying blood to the heart is going to be called as a vein. And any blood vessel that is going to be carrying blood away from the heart is going to be called as an artery. Okay, so blood vessel bringing blood to the heart is called as a vein, and whatever is taking blood away from the heart is called as a artery. So away from the heart means when the heart is going to be pumping blood, right? When the heart pumps blood, it's going to be pumped into arteries to the entire body, and in this case, vein. Do you all understand that? Okay, just give me a thumbs up or maybe some emojis. Anything is fine. You guys can tell something if you got it. Okay, fine. Y'all are so quiet. Did you understand this? I can repeat it again. Okay, so anything that supplies blood to the heart is called a vein, and away from the heart is called an artery. Okay, now let's come back to this. Now I'm going to have my heart here, and I'm going to draw my lungs in. Okay, I'll draw it in this color, orange. Lungs, okay? They look weird, but they're lungs. Okay, lungs. And now the rest of the human body. So including the head and right. Okay. I hope my screen isn't lagging. Right. Now we have a blood vessel going from the heart to the lungs. And we have a blood vessel coming from the heart to the human. Okay. And then we have another vessels which are flowing from the human body to the heart. And then again from the lungs to the heart. Okay, I got it now. So we have blood vessels going away, and then here from the human body to the heart, and here, right. Now, let's talk about this system, the system below. We call this as systemic circulation. So I hope you all know what is double circulation. No, double circulation means during one circulation, blood is going to be passing through the heart twice. So deoxygenated blood, oxygenated blood, both at the same time are going to be coming into the heart and pass twice. That's why we are going to be calling it as double circulation. So now this particular area is going to be called as, okay, so I'm just going to draw a line, right? So this area here is the systemic circulation. All right. So this area here is the systemic circulation. And this area at the top is going to be called as the pulmonary circulation. So we have two circulations. Okay. So when the heart is going to be pumping blood to the lungs, we call that as pulmonary circulation. When it's going to be pumped to the human body, we call that as systemic circulation. Now let's talk about the normal way of things. Okay. The less confusing way. The heart is going to be sending blood to the body, right? Now, you all tell me, what is this particular blood vessel called? Tell me if it's a artery or a vein. And if you all can tell me the name also. What is that particular blood vessel called? May I know? From the heart to the human body. Yes, aorta. So basically, aorta is going to be pumping oxygenated blood to the human body. So, blood is going to be oxygenated. Okay, blood is going to be oxygenated, and this is an artery. And what is its name? Aorta. Okay, right. So not an aorta is going to be pumping, and aorta is going to be later, it's going to be branching. But I hope you all understand what I'm trying to say, right? So oxygenated blood pumped to the human body artery. Now, was my definition correct? I told you, right? Any blood vessel that is going to be carrying blood away from the heart is called artery. So look at this oxygenated blood, artery, aorta. Okay, now take a look at this. Now blood is going to be going to the heart. So tell me if it's going to be oxygenated or deoxygenated blood. It's going to the heart. Oxygenated or deoxygenated? Oh, okay, it's lagging. I hope it's okay now. So is this blood oxygenated or deoxygenated? The one that is going from the body to the heart? It's going to be deoxygenated blood because oxygenated blood is coming like this. When it's going back, it's going to be deoxygenated blood, right? So this is going to be deoxygenated blood. And is this going to be a vein or an artery? This is going to be a vein. Okay. And what are the veins called? What are their names? The name is inferior vena cava and superior vena cava. So write in short form, inferior vena cava and superior vena cava. So inferior vena cava and superior vena cava are the two veins that is going to be carrying deoxygenated blood back to the heart. Okay. Now look. Now this is a normal version. No? Oxygenated blood is coming from an artery. Deoxygenated blood is going back through the vein. Now look at this. Now the heart is going to be getting the deoxygenated blood. Now it has to get it oxygenated. So it has to send to the lung. So now the blood is coming like that and it's going to be going to the lung like this. Okay. Now you tell me, what is this going to be called? This particular thing. Is it an artery or a vein? Is it an artery or a vein? Yes. Very good. It is an artery. And what is it called? Pulmonary artery. Right? So by definition, anything that is going to be carrying blood away from the heart is going to be an artery. So this is a pulmonary artery, but it's going to be carrying deoxygenated blood, right? And also vice versa. Again, oxygenated. So the lung is going to be oxygenating it basically in the alveoli. Okay, then what happens? Then oxygenated blood is going to be coming back to the heart. So the anything that's going to be coming back to the heart has the name of vein. So we are going to be calling this as the pulmonary vein. So we have four, right? So we call this as the pulmonary vein. Okay, and it's going to be carrying oxygenated blood. Now, do you all understand? Now, do you all understand how this works? Please let me know if this is clear. If you are taking screenshots, that's fine. So you better, redraw this diagram and get a proper one. Okay, I've only got 2 students telling me that is clear. Where are the others? I can see here there are like 18 people and only 2 are answering. Where are the rest? Hello? Okay, 3 answered. Okay, others, I don't know what y'all are doing. Can't you all type something wrong with the fingers? Okay, it's fine. So if you all didn't understand, you can go back to the YouTube, so we'll be uploading this on YouTube. So you all can go there and rewatch this whole thing. Okay, because I'm not gonna repeat the whole thing again, it takes time. So yes, now let's move on to our presentation. Should go. Okay. Okay, so now you can see the heart. Okay, so I hope now it's clear, right? So deoxygenated blood coming from superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, and then comes to right atrium, then goes to the ventricle, and from there deoxygenated blood is sent to the lungs through the left and right pulmonary arteries, and then oxygenated blood is going to be coming from the lungs through the left pulmonary veins into the left atrium, right atrium, then goes into the semilunar valves like that and goes outside from the aorta. So I hope it's clear now, this whole confusion. So take your time, okay, just sit, relax, and then look at the diagram that I drew a while back and then try to draw the heart on your own and try to study it, okay? Because biology is not about memorizing, it's about getting the concepts. If you get the concepts, then it's easy. Okay, then this is the human body. Okay, so they have given you, you can see. Okay, they've given you about pulmonary veins and hepatic artery, renal artery. So you can see all the arteries are this side. Ne? This is the systemic circulation, how they are carrying red blood cells. So basically, oxygenated blood. And then you can see from this side how all the veins are going to be carrying deoxygenated blood. So, and you can see between the intestine and liver, we have a vein called hepatic portal vein. Now, from digestion lesson, all the nutrients are absorbed in the intestine, no? So this particular vein hepatic portal vein is going to be having the nutrient-rich blood. That's how it's going to the liver. I remember someone telling me when I asked where this intestine, where the blood goes, they told goes the liver. So I think this is what they meant, right? So all the nutritious blood is going to go to the liver. From the liver, it's going to be going to different parts of the body. Okay, so that particular thing. So you can see the term portal is there. So portal. So you have the hepatic vein, and this is hepatic portal vein. So the vein that is existing between liver and intestine is called the hepatic portal vein. So pay attention to that. Okay. All right. Okay. So this is about the double circulation. You guys know. Okay. So we have the top part, that is the pulmonary circulation, where heart is giving blood to the lungs, and below we have the systemic circulation, and they've drawn the organs. Okay. You all got that part, no? I hope you all don't want me to repeat that again. The systemic part, systemic and pulmonary. Do you all understand that? Let me know, please. Like a thumbs up or something like that. Okay, okay, never mind. Yes, okay. Yeah, please talk to me. A recap. Recap of what? I'm sorry, I didn't read this. Ayatullah Azmi. What recap do you want? If it's about the previous one, I think you can go watch the recording, right? So if it's about the systemic and pulmonary circulation, yeah. Mm, okay, so yeah, what I was mentioning is the one when the heart is pumping blood to the lungs, we call that as the pulmonary circulation. And when it's going to be supplying blood to the organs, we call it as the systemic circulation, right? Okay, let me ask you a question. So now blood is going to be pumped from the heart to the systemic circuit through the aorta, right? And then to the pulmonary circuit, it's going to be pumped through the pulmonary artery, right? So can I know which one has a high blood pressure? Is it the aorta or the pulmonary artery? Which one is going to be having the high pressure? In blood pressure is high in aorta or pulmonary artery? Can I get an answer? Yes, very good. Aorta. Because oxygenated blood, right? And also remember, you can think logically also. When the heart is pumping blood to the lungs is nearby, you know. Lungs is like literally near the heart, right? Therefore, it only has to put a little bit of effort. But imagine this: pumping the blood to the entire body means you should supply to the head, your upper limbs, your lower limbs, you know. So therefore, the aorta has to put so much pressure. Okay, so more than pumping blood to the lungs, pumping blood to the rest of the body needs more pressure. So you can think like that logically as well, right? Then moving on to the cardiac cycle. So cardiac cycle means one complete heartbeat. One complete heartbeat means, first of all, the atria is going to be contracting. The atrium, that is the right and the left atrium is going to be contracting. After that, the ventricle is going to be contracting. After the ventricle contracts, finally, the heart is going to be relaxing. So we call that as complete cardiac diastole when the heart is relaxing. So this entire cycle, contracting the atria, then the ventricle, then finally the whole heart is going to be relaxing. That entire cycle is going to be called as a cardiac cycle. So I have put the definition on screen. This is from the textbook. Okay. So cardiac cycle refers to a complete heartbeat from its generation to the beginning of the next beat. Okay. So we have diastole, atrial contraction, systole, ventricular contraction, and intervening. That is complete cardiac diastole, right? So the heartbeat of a healthy adult is 72 beats per minute. So you all can try it. Okay. So you can time it in your watch and you can try to feel the pulse, okay, in your wrist, and you can see if you're healthy or not. Okay. So heartbeat of a healthy adult, 72 beats per minute. Okay. Then moving on. So you can see this is the wave. So you have a P wave. So it starts with a P wave. The P wave shows you the atrial contraction. Okay. So atrial, when the atria contracts, it's going to show you the P wave. Then we have the QRS wave. This is one whole thing. Okay. P wave is separate. Then QRS wave is one whole wave. So P separate wave, then QRS is one whole wave. QRS is going to be showing the ventricular contraction. Right. So QRS wave is showing the ventricular contraction. Then finally we have the T wave. T wave is going to be intervening. That means the relaxing stage. Okay. So you can see. So according to this particular, the ECG. So basically this is what you get in ECG. Okay. So a collection of these waves is going to show you an ECG. Now you tell me which one is going to be having so much pressure, so much force. Which contraction is going to be having a lot of pressure? Tell me. You can just look at it and say, come on, just give it a guess. It doesn't have to be correct. Which one do you think has a lot of pressure? Yes, systolic. That is the QRS wave, right? So you can see ventricular contraction gives more force. Why? Because blood is going to be pumped to the aorta from the ventricles. No, think about it. Oxygenated blood is pumped through the ventricles. So therefore, aorta, right? So aorta has a high pressure, which means ventricle naturally will have a high pressure. So it's not about memorizing. Okay, it's about getting the idea. Okay, getting the idea, thinking logically and understanding. So you don't even have to study this part and go for the exam. If they ask you which one has a high pressure, you can directly say ventricular contraction. Okay, so I just told you why. And then this is when the heart is relaxing. So basically, if you look at the heart, if you listen to the heartbeat, we are going to be having the lub dub sound. Okay, so the lub sound is going to be longer than the dub sound. So lub sound is going to be formed when the bicuspid and tricuspid valves are closing, and the dub sound forms when the semilunar valves close. So you all can get a screenshot of this as well. Okay. All right. All right, so here we have two types of blood pressure. We have the systolic blood pressure and the diastolic blood pressure. So you can get a screenshot of this also. So, okay, now if you look at the textbook, they have given you a clean definition for systolic blood pressure and diastolic blood pressure. You all have to study that. Now, I have just given it for you all to remember easily. Okay, so systolic pressure is always high. Okay, so remember like this: pressure in the arteries when the heart beats. Okay, so that is the pressure in the artery when the pressure in the artery when the heart is going to be pumping the blood basically. So it's high. It's usually from 110 to 120. And then when we speak about the diastolic blood pressure, that is the pressure in the arteries when the heart is going to be resting between the beats. That is 70 to 80. So if they ask you to write the blood pressure, you have to write like this: 120/80, and you have to write the pressure units. Okay, millimeter Hg. Okay. Any doubts you guys have? Okay. Someone is saying to give an idea how to study science for someone who haven't started anything. Okay, wow. Now we have okay, we have less than a month, so you don't have to think much about it. Okay, so now you can study the seminar papers. Mainly, what you'll have to do now is do the past papers. Okay, so last 5 years papers, do it. So for example, if you'll find any areas difficult, like in biology, study those areas. Okay, so if you feel like all the unwanted areas where they, for example, in this unit, the diseases are unwanted. And for example, if you take biosphere, they have given you this long description under soil pollution, water pollution. You don't have to study those deeply, no, you just have to read through them, because studying them is a waste of time. So areas like that, you have to focus less. And mainly, if you do the past papers, you will understand. Okay, like it's best to do the past five, like last 5 years paper. So when you study that, the last 5 years paper, you guys will understand, okay, like you will have an idea on what will be tested this year. Obviously, what was tested last year, usually they don't test it. I mean, they do, but not in big amounts. Like, for example, last year nervous system has come. So this year they might put one MCQ or something. They wouldn't give you an essay, So like that, you have to compare and study. And also you have to look at the now, for example, structured essay. If you look at the first structured essay, that is on biosphere. So definitely you have to study biosphere, So stuff like that, when you all do the last 5 years paper, you will understand. Just take one day. Okay, you all have a lot of days. Now, so just allocate one day and do one science paper and mark using the marking scheme. And also, when it comes to physics, know the concepts. Okay, now when it comes to chemistry, you should know the equations, like how to calculate the the molar mass ratios, especially chemical calculations. So don't try to study the theory, know the concept. Now, physics is also like that. F equals ma and stuff like that. It's better if you know the concept. So if you look at, I think our science tute, they have shortened it and given you all the equations. So study the equations and study the concept. So in physics, you can't memorize and go, no. So just go study the all the equations. They go there, you can go and do, because they will just give you simple questions. For example, F equals ma, they will give you the acceleration or the force, and they will ask you to find the mass. Or they'll give you the mass and the acceleration, ask you to find the force. Just simple questions like that. So you don't have to stress much. Okay. And yeah, so for biology especially, you can make short notes. Short notes like this, so you can have an easy idea on what we are studying, right? Okay. So that's how you can study now. So right now, I wouldn't recommend sitting and studying the entire syllabus one by one. Please don't do that. Do past papers, right? Last 5 years past papers, do it. If you find any area unclear, go back to the textbook, revise. Please don't do it like an open book test. Close the book, do the paper. If you get it wrong, it's completely fine. Okay, go back to the textbook, open it, and see where you have gone wrong. Okay, so that's how you can study these last few days. And also, getting an A is easy. Okay, like I mentioned earlier, the examiners haven't made the paper in a very difficult manner. Okay, they wouldn't make it difficult. School papers are usually very difficult compared to the actual O-level paper, because when we were doing O-levels, our school papers were so difficult. It's very difficult to score, hundreds, 90s, difficult, right? But when we went to the O-level paper, it was actually easy compared to whatever we did in school. So therefore, don't worry about it. Like I said, do past papers, right? Okay. If there's anything else, you can text me personally. Okay. Right. So we'll take a short break after this. All right. Okay then. Okay. We will take a break then. So do you all want the break now, or shall we completely finish biological processes? What do you all say? Okay, then I'll give you all the break now. So I'll give you all a 15-minute break. Yeah, come back at 9:30 then. Okay. So this class will be quite long, I think, because we have a lot to cover. Probably it will go till 11. So if you all have classes tomorrow, you all can maybe go to sleep and see the recording in the morning. That's fine, right? If you all don't have classes, and if you all, yeah, I'll be doing biosphere. Yeah, I'll be finishing it today. So if you all have time, if you can stay up, then yeah, go ahead. Right, see you all at 9:30 then. Okay, all can now we can start, no? Okay, I'll drop a message in the group and get back here. Okay, then let's start. Right, okay. Now we are going to be talking about the lymphatic system. Okay, so now lymphatic system is almost similar to the circulatory system, right? But then there are certain differences. So you see, the blood circulatory system has a pumping device, that is the heart. But then in the case of lymphatic system, we don't have such a pumping device. Okay, so so whatever now the liquid, the fluid, right? The fluid that is flowing in the lymphatic system is called the lymph. And this lymph, please let me know if you can hear like a disturbance in my voice. If it's breaking, like if there's like a disturbance, let me know. Okay, right. So this lymph is going to be moving through these lymph vessels by the contractions, right? The muscle contraction that's going to be happening in the lymph vessels. So that's how lymph is going to be moving. Okay. So you can see blood plasma and white blood cells are going to be there in these lymphatic capillaries, as well as in the lymph vessels, you don't have red blood cells, even plasma proteins. So what is another, tell me another type of fluid that does not contain red blood cells and plasma protein? Come on, we did this like, yeah, we did this during this session. Another type of fluid that does not contain red blood cells and plasma protein in them. So lymph is one. Let me give you an example. Blood plasma is one. So lymph, blood plasma, there's another one. Can any of you give me an answer? Hmm. Uh, can't you all respond? Oh, you can. Okay. Right. Yes, that's right. Glomerular filtrate. Very good. So glomerular filtrate is another type of fluid that uh, that does not have red blood cells and plasma proteins. Okay. Now take a look at this. Now this lymphatic system is going to be containing lacteals, lymph capillaries, as well as lymph nodes. Okay. Now, if you all can link, you all remember lactase, right? Fatty acids and glycerol are going to be absorbed into lactase. Okay, so I hope you all know that. Anyways, so we have lymph capillaries. Now look at lymph nodes. So they have given us some information about lymph nodes, right? So they have mentioned that the lymph nodes are going to be found mostly around the lungs, the heart, the skin, armpits, and throat areas. And when your lymph nodes are going to be swollen, so when they swell, we are going to be called them as kudeti, right? And also, lymph nodes are going to be containing white blood cells. So it's mentioned here, no, blood plasma and white blood cells move in this capillary. So you have blood plasma as well as white blood cells. So the white blood cells, what is the main function of white blood cells? Main function of white blood cells is phagocytosis. So they undergo phagocytosis in order to destroy the microbes, the viruses, bacteria, whatever the materials which are there, they are going to be destroying it. That's going to be done by the white blood cells, right? Now, if you look at the lymphatic system, right? So basically, what happens is the fluid. Now, if you look, now I told you it's going to be closely connected to the blood circulatory system, right? Now, when you have fluid leakage from the blood circulatory system, so from the blood, when there's going to be leakage of fluids, right? What happens is the lymphatic, so the fluids are going to be leaking into the lymphatic system. So the lymphatic system is going to be restoring the blood volume by sending the leaked fluid back into the blood. Okay, so that's why we need a lymphatic system. And also mainly this lymph. Okay, so now if you ask me in which, how is it going to be given? Now I told you when the blood capillaries are there, when the blood vessels are there, when the fluid from the blood vessels are leaking, what happens is the lymphatic systems are going to be absorbing those fluids. Now the lymphatic system gives this fluid back to the blood. So this is going to be happening through the venous system. So if you look at the neck region, okay, so you're going to be having it's going to, so this lymph is going to be emptying into the venous circulation, so basically the venous system, right? So this is going to be happening at the junction of the internal jugular vein and the subclavian vein. So if you look at the picture, if you have your textbook, you can look at the picture in page 170. They have given you the picture of a human, right? And you can see closer to the neck, somewhere there, the neck area, okay, the collarbone, that area, they have given you uh, the left and the right subclavian vein, and you have the interjugular vein. So this is where the lymph is going to be emptying. So all the restored fluid is going to be going into this particular vein, and from the vein, it's going to be circulating back into the blood, right? Okay, so uh, that's all you have to know about lymphatic system. You all have to know about the thin walls. Okay, the walls are thin, so red blood cells and plasma protein cannot move through these walls. So whatever the fluid that is there is called tissue fluid. Right now, the fluid that is leaking, we call that leaking fluid as tissue fluid. So when this tissue fluid is going to be entering into the lymphatic system, we call it as the lymph. All right, yeah. So yeah, I was mentioning now from the blood capillaries, I told you there's going to be some fluid leakage, right? So when the fluid leakage is going to be happening, that leaked fluid is going to be called the tissue fluid. Now, this tissue fluid gets absorbed into the lymphatic system. Then it's going to be called as lymph, not tissue fluid. Now it's called as lymph. Okay. So did you all get that? Do you all understand what I'm trying to say? Can I get a thumbs up? Some sort of an emoji? Come on, say something. Okay, right. So please respond, okay? Because if you all are gonna fall asleep, then I might as well. Okay, good. Then I'm not doing the nervous system part. I told you why, because it came last year, so I didn't want to focus much on it. But there are chances that it might come for the MCQ. So better if you all study that. Okay. All right. Now we are going to be talking about and also I didn't do the hormones part. So hormones part, it's basically studying the table. Okay, so there is nothing for me to teach there. You just have to sit and study the table. So what this hormone does, about the glands, pituitary, the pancreas and all of those glands. Okay, so you have to study those, the gonads. So that you have to study that, and they have given you, the functions of it, whatever the hormones it secretes. So nothing to teach. That is just self work. Okay, you'll have to sit and study. Okay, now this one, the factors in the internal environment regulated. Okay, so you know what is homeostasis, right? Now within our body, basically the blood and everything, okay, the blood, the circulatory system and all the systems that we have in our body is going to be called our internal environment. Okay, so we have an external environment now, so the area around us is called the external environment. So inside our body is called the internal environment. Now this internal environment have to be kept in a proper, it has to be kept in a like a proper constant level. Okay, it can't change. Okay, if it changes, there's going to be problems. So that's why we have homeostasis. We have the homeostatic mechanism. So what happens is, for example, there are three things which are regulated. Okay, so they have given us blood glucose level, body temperature, and the water balance. So when the blood glucose level is going to be increasing, you know what happens? Insulin is going to be secreted. It's going to be converted to glycogen. So those kind of things are happening. So therefore, the homeostasis in our body is going to be maintaining all these levels in a it's going to be maintaining all of it in a constant level. Okay, right. Now uh, let's move on to this. Okay, hold on. Right, so let's talk about how blood glucose level is going to be controlled. Okay, right. So the normal blood glucose level is 80 to 120 milligrams in 100 milliliter. Okay, so in 100 milliliter of blood, you're supposed to have 80 to 120 milligrams of blood. Milligrams of glucose, right? So if it's going to be exceeding or decreasing that value, then there's going to be a loss in the maintenance of homeostasis. So then uh, this is the constant level and it has to maintain within this range. Okay, so when this range changes, then we have our homeostatic system acting. Okay, right. Now, uh, let's take a situation. Okay, now glucose is going to be high, and in this case, glucose is going to be low. Right. Now, what happens is when the glucose level is going to be high. Okay, so we have the pancreas. I'm just gonna draw the pancreas like this, like a leaf, not a leaf, it's a pancreas, right? So the pancreas is going to be having something called beta cells. Okay, so you guys know beta now? I'm just drawing the sign. Okay, beta cells in the islets of Langerhans. So islets of Langerhans is where the beta cells are located. So islets of Langerhans are going to be having both alpha cells and beta cells. But in this situation, we're talking about beta cells. Okay, so what happens is these beta cells, they are going to be secreting the insulin hormone. Okay, now when your blood glucose level is high, the pancreas, that is the islets of Langerhans, are going to be, which are having beta cells, they are going to be secreting the insulin hormone. So this insulin hormone is going to be doing two things, right? So the first thing it's going to be doing is, it's going to be converting glucose to glycogen. And where is this going to be stored? In the liver. Okay, so glucose is going to be converted to glycogen and then it's going to be stored in the liver, right? All right. Then it's also going to be converting glucose into fat. And where is this stored? Can someone tell me? So insulin is going to be converting glucose into glycogen and storing in liver, and it's going to be converting glucose to fat. And where is it going to be storing? Where is this fat going to be stored in? Can anyone tell me? Okay, I think everyone is sleeping. So I'm just self-studying here. Okay, I have replies. Yes, that's right. Adipose tissue. Good. Yeah. So adipose tissue. Okay. The handwriting is ugly. It's fine. Please excuse me for that. All right. So this is what happens. When the glucose level is going to be increasing, the beta cells, the islets of Langerhans releases insulin, which is going to be converting glucose to glycogen stored in the liver, and glucose is going to be converted to fat and stored in the adipose tissue. Right. Now I hope you all got that. Now we'll move on to this part. When there is low glucose, what happens? Okay. All right. So now, when the glucose level is going to be low, the pancreas, okay, is going to be having alpha cells. So these alpha cells are going to be secreting the hormone glucogen. No, that's what's mentioned in the book. Glucogen. Yeah. So glucogen is going to be secreted, right? So these are alpha cells. So glucogen is going to be secreted. And what is glucogen going to do? Glucogen is going to be converting the glycogen. Glucogen converts the glycogen that is stored in the liver into glucose, right? And this glucose is going to be released into the blood. Okay, right. So that's the idea. That's how the hormone is going to be. That's how the blood sugar level is going to be maintained. So if you want, you can take a screenshot. But try to write this neatly, clearly, okay, when you're studying. So if you want, you can get a screenshot. Let me know if you're done. Like a thumbs up or anything like that. Okay, all right. Then that is how blood glucose level is going to be maintained. Then we are going to be talking about body temperature. All right. Okay. Now, since you all have done this lesson before, I want you all to know, okay, what is the uh, thermoregulatory center of our body? Okay, not what. Where is it located? Where is the thermoregulatory center of our body located? In which part of the brain? Okay, got an answer. Hypothalamus. Yeah, that's right. Hypothalamus, right? So, yes, hypothalamus is going to be, hypothalamus is going to be the main thermoregulatory center of our body. Okay, now let's talk about two situations. Now, you all have to help me answer this. You all have to help me with this, okay, because it's a kind of common sense, right? Now the temperature has increased, internal body temperature. Let's say, for example, you are exercising, or let's say you went into a very hot area. Now temperature increases. What happens? How is our body going to be controlling this? How will our body get rid of this heat, excessive heat that it has? What happens? One common thing will happen. Sweat is produced. Very good. Yeah, sweat is produced. What else? One more thing. Yeah, okay, sweat. There's one more. Tell me what's the other thing? Okay, sweat is there. Yeah, heat loss. How? Okay, not blood is increased, blood flow is increased. Now, you know there are the blood vessels in your skin are going to get dilated. Okay, so for example, if initially if the blood vessels are going to be like this, means because of this excessive heat, it's going to get dilated. So what happens when the blood vessels are dilated? A large amount of blood is going to be flowing, large amount of blood. So initially, let's say a little bit of blood flows. So now a lot of blood is going to be flowing. And what happens? This blood is going to be carrying the heat, right? So a lot of blood is going to be flowing, and it's the heat is going to be released from the skin. Okay, so if you notice your face, if you like after exercising, your face becomes sort of reddish and your skin it turns like a little bit dark. Okay, that's because of this dilation of blood vessels. Okay, so that the heat from the body is going to be lost easily to the atmosphere. Okay, or lost outside, right? As well as sweating. So by sweating, you can control heat loss. Okay, now what happens when the temperature drops? What happens when the temperature drops? The opposite happens. Okay, so the blood vessel that is initially like this, it will constrict further, it will become even smaller. Okay, so it will become smaller, and what happens now? It's going to be, the heat is not going to be lost, it's going to be preventing heat loss, because now you're in a cold temperature. And also, if you notice, okay, if you're a hairy person, right, your hair would be erect. Okay, mostly the ones the hair on your hand and the hair on your legs, okay, they would become erect and they would try to trap air particles around in order to prevent the heat from going outside. Okay, so hair becomes erect, and then the blood vessel is going to be constricted, as well as sweat is going to be reduced. You're not going to get much sweat, and also heat loss is going to be heat loss is going to be uh, to prevent heat loss, something is going to happen with our muscles, especially. What is that? Because you have to prevent the heat loss. Yes, that's right. Shivering, shivering. Yes, shivering. So you shiver, and then what happens? The muscle contractions are going to be preventing heat from getting lost. Okay. Okay. So did y'all get this body temperature regulation part? Yeah, right. Okay. Then if you all got it, we'll move on. You don't have to type. If you can just even drop a thumbs up. Okay. Then finally moving on to water balance. Okay. Now tell me which part is going to be mainly involved in water balance. Now, if you want to balance the water, what is going to be involved mainly? What part of your body is important for water balancing? Okay, I have some answers. Let's see. Okay, kidney, that's right. Kidney, because almost 90% of the water reabsorption is going to be happening by kidney, therefore it's important. So what happens is, right? So when the water level, I'm going to write H2O, right? When the water level is going to be dropping, okay, does the kidney have to reabsorb more water or secrete more water? Okay, it's common sense, right? I'll just answer that myself. It has to reabsorb water, right? So it has to reabsorb, the nephron has to reabsorb more water when the water level in the body is low. So for that, okay, the hypothalamus is going to be releasing a special hormone. So this hormone is going to be released by the pituitary gland. Okay, what is that hormone? May I know what's the hormone that's going to be released. Yes, that's right. Very good. ADH hormone. So we call this as antidiuretic hormone. So antidiuretic hormone is going to be released. It's going to be increasing the permeability. Okay, so it's going to be allowing more water to get absorbed from the nephron. So therefore, the water balance is restored. At the same time, when the water is going to be really high in your body, what happens is the reabsorption. So there is no hormone involved here. So when the water is going to be high in your body, reabsorption of water by the kidney is reduced. Okay, so I'll just write that as reabsorption of water by kidney is reduced. Okay, so when the water is going to be decreased, ADH hormone is released, and when the water is going to be increased in your body, reabsorption of water by the kidney is going to be reduced, which means you're going to be urinating more water. Okay, right. So is that clear? Did you all understand about homeostasis? Okay, you guys got it? All right, then let's move on. Okay, right. So back to the slide. Okay, so we are going to be starting biosphere now. So y'all can, maybe drink some water and like prepare yourself for a new lesson, like, with a refreshing mind. Let's start biosphere. So I'll give you all like a 1 minute gap. Quickly drink some water and, wash your face if you're sleepy. And yeah, be ready for this. I'll give you all some time. Only a minute, okay? So like don't take forever. Okay then. Shall we start? All right. Okay. So biosphere lesson is mainly about the environment. Okay. Like they talk about environmental pollution, then you have soil pollution, water pollution, air pollution. Then we speak about these food mile footprints and energy pyramids. We talk about the food chain. Okay, so it's actually an interesting lesson. So since we have to, you know, do it within a short span of time, we can't spend much time here, but it's actually very interesting, right? But also very annoying. I think most of y'all told this lesson is difficult, probably because y'all are lazy to study the pollution parts. Am I right? I think that's why. Yeah, yes. So we had the same issue, right? We were also like when we were doing O levels, we were like, oh, we hate biosphere because they have mentioned history also. You have to study about those Anicuts, Visokotu, and all of that, right? So to be honest, you don't need all that. If you look at biosphere, I think you will have one MCQ and then you have the structured essay that is from biosphere. So mostly they ask you about you like you have to know important things like carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, the water cycle. Those are important, and also chemicals. Like I've basically prepared the important part, so I'll be teaching that here. So you don't have to worry. I mean, so apart from that, about that Bisokotu and stuff, you don't have to sit there and study that. Okay, just read through it. Just go through it. Don't waste your time spending so much time on those. And also water pollution, air pollution, better if you're now if you look at the kidney disease, okay, they've given you a type of kidney disease, okay, and they have given you so many symptoms, several symptoms. You don't have to write all the, you don't have to memorize all those symptoms, just memorize a few symptoms. So usually they won't ask you to give 10 examples, give 6 examples, no, right? Maximum they will ask you give like 3 or 2. So it's better if you study 5 examples and also study the ones which are easy to remember, what you can keep in your mind, okay. And also they've given you about multiple cropping, so those stuff are history lesson, okay. So since you have already studied in deep in history, you don't have to study it here, so just go through those things, right? And don't spend too much time, don't waste your time sitting down and studying all those stuff. So I'm not asking you to ignore it, don't ignore, it is important because the MCQ will be there. What I'm saying is don't waste so much time on it, okay, because there are so many other paths where you have to, there are so many other subjects where you have to spend more time, so many other areas in science where you have to spend more time. So just don't waste time on those unnecessary parts, right? Okay, then starting with biosphere. So first we have to talk about the level of organization, okay, how our environment is organized. So I have given you the definition of environmental equilibrium. So the organisms and the physical environment have a balanced relationship. This resourceable relationship is referred to as the environmental equilibrium. Now, that means we have non-living things and living things in the environment, right? So we are going to be having living things like plants, animals, humans, okay, basically us, living things. Then we have non-living things. So living things are called biotic, no? Then uh, non-living things or the physical things, physical environment are called, so you have water, right? Water, wind, the soil, as well as the earth, the rainfall, temperature, they all come under physical environment. Now, there should be a proper balance between these two. Now, how do we exist? We exist by having a relationship between each other, no, because you can't live without water, you can't live without the land, you can't live without the atmosphere. So all of us, and also you can't live without other humans also, you can't live without other humans. So species connection. At the same time, you can't live without a completely different species. For example, let's take trees. They are different species. No, you can't live without them also. So you now just think of you as an example. You have to interact with both living things as well as non-living things. So because of that, there is a relationship, which is the balance relationship, and that is the reason for the maintenance of this equilibrium, right? So we have so I'm not going to go into the definitions. I'm just going to explain, right? So we have individual, population, community, ecosystem, biosphere. You should know that order. So individual, for example, take you as an example. So you're an individual, okay? Now you're going to become a population. Your family. You have a family. That is interaction between same species. So you have a family, and let's say you have an extended family, okay? Your aunties, uncles, cousins, blah, blah, blah. So you all are one population. Now you're going to be forming a community. How is that? You have pets. Okay, so you have pets at home. At the same time, let's say you are you, for your food, you're going to be taking chicken, so you're going to be having interaction with the chicken, and you're going to be having interaction with the trees because you need vegetables, right? So to eat and stuff like that. Okay, at the same time, you need treat for shades. So you're going, no, so you're a population. You're going to be interacting with the other things, other living things, and that is going to make you a community, because community means different populations are going to be interacting. So you're one population, the trees are another population, the birds, chickens, another population. So you all interact in the community. Then we come to the ecosystem. In the ecosystem, these communities is going to be interacting with the non-living things. So you need water, the chickens need water, the plants need water. At the same time, all of you all need the air also to breathe. So like that. So that is going to be the ecosystem. Community interacting with the non-living things. What is biosphere? Biosphere means where every living thing is going to be living. Okay, so wherever you find living things, that is going to be the biosphere, right? So all the living things as well as the non-living things are going to be interacting, and they're going to be staying in the biosphere, right? Now, biosphere is going to be separated into 3 parts as the lithosphere, hydrosphere, and the thermosphere. So lithosphere is mainly, you can see the crust, as well as the upper mantle. Okay, the crust, because you have something called inner mantle, outer mantle, no. So the outer mantle as well as the crust are going to be belonging to the lithosphere. At the same time, biosphere is at the same time, atmosphere is the air around you. Okay, so you have this air around you, and that is going to be called as the atmosphere, the region around you. And then we have the hydrosphere. Hydrosphere is basically all the water present on Earth. So may I know how many percentage is that? May I know the percentage of water on Earth? May I please get a response? Yeah, okay, that's right. Uh, 70% is going to be water. Okay, there's only one student responding, I think. Okay, never mind. Right, yes. So 70% water hydrosphere. Okay. Then moving on to the next one. Okay. So now they have given you this whole explanation about the growth curve that you can see in the left hand side. Okay. So I'm just going to brief out through it. So this initial part, okay, you have the slow phase where it's slowly increasing the population. Then you have the exponential phase where the population is slightly accelerating. Then you have the deceleration phase. Okay. So again, the growth has increased a lot, but now the growth is decreasing a little bit. So which means in this particular phase, the birth rates, death rate, all of that are going to be, and the immigration, they're going to become sort of equal, like, okay, becoming equal, like shaping. And then finally, in the fourth stage, you have the stability. It's stable. Okay. Now, I want you all to tell me what are the four main things that is going to be controlling this growth curve. This growth curve depends on four things in a population. What is that? May I know what are those four things? Yes, people. I can see there are. Yeah, okay, there are students. Come on. If you don't answer, I'm gonna pick one. Yes. Okay. Wow. Okay, you're answering. Yes. Birth, death, immigration, and emigration. So dying, okay, birth, death, as well as when more people move into your community, there's going to be immigration, and when more go outside, emigrations. These are the reasons that causes this change. Now look at this, the natural growth curve. So the growth curve of a natural population naturally is going to be S-shaped. Okay, it's an S-shaped curve. But if you look at the growth curve of this particular population, you can see the growth curve of human population is J-shaped. All right. So this is a typical growth curve, S shape, but the growth curve of a human is going to be a J shape. Why? Because we are still in exponential phase. We are still growing. So there are two reasons for this rapid growth. May I know what are the two reasons? It's given in the textbook. So there are two reasons for the rapid growth of this human curve. Human growth curve. May I know the reason? May I know the reason? Okay. Someone has typed it. Let's see. Enough resources? No, it's the answer. So you have initially I mentioned births, deaths, immigration, right? So out of that, there are, you have to give the reasons from those. What are those? There are two reasons. Come on. I meant overall human population. Okay, you can't say immigration means then you're supposed to leave this planet and go somewhere. So immigration is not an option. Yes, increase of birth rates. Yes, increase of birth rate. And what is the other one? Decrease of death rates. So increase of birth rates and decrease of death rates are the examples. Okay. Enough reproductive organisms. Okay, wow, these answers are so creative. Okay, yes, so don't think too much, don't think too deep. Okay, it's just birth rates have increased, death rates have decreased. Okay, now it makes sense now because in the ancient time, people there are some people who die out of common cold. Can you believe that? Like they just get a common cold and they die. Okay, so therefore there were less population because there was no health care. Like I think in history, right? Since I taught history as well. So the average lifespan is, I think, 35 to 40 years of a human. So you can imagine now we have people living till 100, 90s, 80s, right? So because of the care system. Right. Okay. Moving on. Okay, someone has told me there was a healthcare, right? Alahana Pirivenan. Yeah, it was, but we didn't have modern medicines no back then. Nowadays you have, even if you have that, even if you get a heart attack, they can cure you, right? Back then, even though we had hospitals, they didn't have the instruments, like they were not advanced. Like now modern medicine is so advanced, right? Back then they did have hospitals and they mostly use Ayurvedic medicines, no? So Ayurvedic, Unani, those kind of medicines. Okay. Right. Now we are going to talk about the flow of energy and nutrients. Right. This is the definition that is given in the textbook. The sequence of energy and materials flow from producer to consumer, such as primary consumer, and then to the secondary consumer is referred to as a food chain. Okay. So you guys know how food chain goes, right? So we start from a producer. Okay, so that is the plant in this case. Plant is the producer. Then we have the grasshopper, who is the primary consumer. Then we have the frog, who is the secondary consumer. Then we have a snake, who is the tertiary consumer. And we have the owl, who is the quaternary consumer. Okay, so this is a beautiful food chain, right? So tell me this. It's a common sense question. In natures, do we have single food chains existing? Hmm? Can a food chain exist alone like this food chain? Very beautiful. Can it exist like this? As the answer? No, it cannot. So, what form does it exist as? In what form does it exist? I only have two students answering. I hope you all know about the thing where we recognize the, most responsive students. So, if you guys want to become famous, then, it's better if you all respond. Yes, it exists in the form of food web, right? Okay. So it's going to be existing in the form of a food web. Yes, we don't have single uh, chains like this. Right, okay. Then, okay, teacher, I'm giving chance for this. No, it's fine. Y'all don't have to give chances for others. Okay, you don't have to. You don't have to be so generous. You can answer. All right. So this is what is given in the textbook. I found this picture very unclear and ugly, which is why I had to put that one. Right. This is nice. Teacher, if there is more than 3 chains, then it's a food web. Yes. So the chains are supposed to be interconnected. They are not supposed to exist separately. They should be interconnected. Only then you can call them a food web. Okay. So you can see food web. So this is the definition given in the textbook, right? The mutual relationships for food among organisms is referred to as food webs. Okay. Now take a look at this, right? So How many chains can you see? Let's see. So shrubs, this is one chain, one. Then we have 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so there are literally 5 food chains here. So all these 5 food chains combined, we are going to be having one big food web, right? Okay. Wow, you guys are complimenting me. Thank you so much. Okay, anyways, moving on. So, right. So you can see separate food chains, they are going to be linked together and they form a food web, right? So let's do, I think there's an activity. Okay. Now, name a producer. I want to get answers. Can you all name producers here? From the picture, you all must select and give me a producer. Tree. Okay, good. Yes, tree is a producer. Tree with orange, yes. Plant, okay. Grass, yes. Okay, all right. So grass, tree, okay. Then algae. Algae? No, that's not algae. That's grass. Have you all seen rats eat algae? No. It's grass, okay? It's grass, not algae. Right, okay. And can you name a herbivore? A herbivore. Grasshopper. Yes, grasshopper is a herbivore. Come on, make it fast. What is this? That insect. It's a grasshopper. Yes. Yes. Rat. Yes, good. Yes, that's a herbivore. Okay. Right. So, okay, this is a bit okay, tell me an example for a secondary consumer now. Example for a secondary consumer. Who's the secondary consumer here? The bird, very good. The kingfisher, yeah, the kingfisher bird. Yeah, the rat. The rat? No, no, dear. The rat is a primary consumer. No, actually, it can be a secondary consumer in nature, yes, but according to this food chain, it's a primary consumer because you can see it goes like this, no? Now, if the rat is going to be eating the grasshopper, then it can be a secondary consumer. So here it's not. The eagle, yeah, that's right. Eagle is a yes, secondary consumer. Okay. Then do we have any tertiary consumers? Tertiary consumer. We do have a tertiary consumer. Who is that? Yes, the snake. Okay, yes, the snake is a tertiary consumer. All right, good. Let's move on. Okay, so this is trophic levels. Okay, so trophic levels are the different levels that you find in a food chain. Okay, so you guys can look at the definition they have given in the textbook for trophic levels. So every organism belongs to a certain trophic level according to their mode of nutrition. Okay. So trophic levels are going to be different levels of a food chain, right? Like I mentioned before. So we have the first when we spoke about the consumer, those kind of things, initially we start with the producer. No, we start with producer. Then we had primary consumer. Then we had secondary consumer. Because remember, the first step starts with the producer. Second step is only primary consumer. So when you look at trophic levels, we have trophic levels starting from here. We have the first trophic level, second, third, fourth, fifth, goes on like that. Okay, right. So these trophic levels have been categorized based on their mode of nutrition. Okay, now there are 3 modes of nutrition. Can someone please tell me what those 3 are? You all can even give me one example, it's fine. Can I get the example for modes of nutrition? Yes, come on, answer me. Mode of nutrition. Yeah, so we have autotrophs, heterotrophs, as well as uh, yeah, autotrophs, heterotrophs, and decomposers. Right. Move on. Let's move on. Okay. So you can get a screenshot of this, right? Uh, I think getting a screenshot of this is better. Saprophyte. It's saprophyte. Okay. So you have autotroph, heterotrophs, as well as decomposers, right? So look at autotrophs. So we have two autotrophs are basically organisms who have the ability to produce their own food. So basically plants, green plants, okay? And also you have two types of autotrophs. You have chemoautotrophs as well as photoautotrophs. So chemoautotrophs are going to be the ones. Okay, so chemoautotrophs are going to be the ones that's going to be using chemicals, right? In order to make their own food. So basically, some bacteria, okay. So yeah, basically microorganisms. Microorganisms are chemoautotrophs. Okay, they are going to be using these chemicals in order to make their own food. Then we talk about photoautotrophs. So animals are going to be using sunlight in order to produce their own food or photoautotrophs. So we have green plants, right? So that is done through photosynthesis. Then we come on to heterotrophs. Okay, so heterotrophs are always consumers. So we are heterotrophs. We can't produce our own food. No, if we have chlorophyll, we can photosynthesize, but obviously we don't, right? So we consume other animals, other organisms. Okay. Now, when you look at heterotrophs, they are always consumers. Okay, they can never be producers, always consumers. And there are three types. Okay. So we have the primary consumers, secondary, tertiary, quaternary. It goes like that. Now you should know primary consumers are herbivores. Okay. Primary consumers are always going to be herbivores. They are never going to be carnivorous or omnivorous. Always herbivores, right? And secondary consumers can never be herbivores. That makes sense, you know, because you're literally eating another animal. Now, we belong to the omnivore side. Okay, we eat vegetables also, we eat animals also. So if you're like a vegetarian, then you belong to herbivore, primary consumers, right? So we have some vegetarian people, we have some non-veg people. So the non-veg people, such as me, okay, so I belong to secondary consumers. So if you're a vegetarian, you're going to belong to the primary consumer region, right? So it's like that. So primary consumers are always herbivores. Then secondary consumers are going to be uh, carnivorous. Okay, sorry, back. Okay, so secondary consumers are going to be omnivores and carnivores, and the tertiary consumers are always going to be carnivores. Okay, because if they are going to be consuming plants as well, then they will automatically belong to the secondary consumer section. So you should know that primary consumers always herbivores, tertiary consumers always carnivores, secondary consumers can be both carnivores as well as omnivores, right? Then we are moving on to decomposers. So decomposers are mostly microbes, right? Like bacteria, fungi. So usually microbes are going to be decomposers. So we call them, there's a special name we give them, right? We call them as saprophytes because they are going to be consuming decomposing material. So they are going to be helping in decomposition. Okay, so when there is a dead animal, dead plant, these decomposers are going to be helping them to, like, you know, like they're going to release chemicals and digesting them, right? So basically breaking down their body little by little. Decompose. They undergo decomposition because of the saprophytes like bacteria and fungi. Okay. So any doubts so far? Do you guys have any doubts? No. Okay. No doubts. Okay then. Moving on. Okay. So now we are going to be talking about the pyramids, right? So we have three types of pyramids. So we have number pyramids, energy pyramid and pyramid of biomass. Okay. So now, uh, what is the one type of pyramid that is always going to be upright? There is one type of pyramid which is always going to be upright. What is that pyramid? Okay, I have an answer. Yes, very good. Good. It's energy pyramid, right? Energy pyramid is always going to be upright. Okay, it's never going to be inverted, right? So remember that, always upright. Um, no, dear. Number pyramid can be both. So this is an example for number pyramid. I'm sorry, I didn't put the topic. Okay, I forgot to put the topic here. Anyways, the graphical representation of number of organisms in different trophic levels is called the number pyramid. So basically, number of organisms, right? So what's going to be representing the number of organisms is going to be belonging to the number pyramid. So you can see in normal conditions. Okay, so uh, so let's say grass, and then rats are going to consume them. So we have little amount of rats compared to grass, right? And then let's say eagles are going to consume the rat, so we have less eagles. And then let's say a bigger bird like a snake is going to be eating the eagle, so we have less snakes. So it goes like that. Now take a look at this. Inverted pyramid is going to be showing you when there's going to be a relationship between the host and the parasite. So mostly host parasite relationship is shown by this inversion. Okay. So yeah, host parasite relationship. So oh my god, this is so big. It's fine. So when you have a host and a parasite relationship, that pyramid is going to be always inverted. Therefore, number pyramid can be both upright as well as inverted. Okay. Then we are moving on to the biomass pyramid. So biomass pyramid is actually the amount of organic matter present. Now, organic matter means it's not your weight, okay? Because if you go stand on the scale, it's going to be showing your weight. Now, that is along with the water in our body, no? So we have like almost 2/3 of our body is filled with water. It has water in it, right? So if you drain all that water out, you're only going to get the 1/3. So that 1/3 is basically going to be our organic matter. Okay, so the total amount of organic matter present in a body is going to be the one that is remaining after all the water has been drained out. So that's what we call by biomass. Oh, sorry. Yeah, biomass, right? So the graphical representation that shows the total amount of organic matter present in different trophic levels is called biomass pyramid. So you can see biomass pyramid can be both upright as well as inverted. Okay. Right. So you can see here in the first case, so the second case, it's what we studied earlier. Okay, so the normal, what happens in the land. So we have grass, grasshopper, snake, eagle. So this is the upright version of the biomass pyramid. Now, if you look at the ocean, okay, in the ocean, we are going to be having an inverted version of this biomass because look at the fish. These huge consumers, these secondary consumers, these large fish, they're going to be consuming the small fish in large quantities, and we find a lot of them, right? So the organic matter present in these fish is going to be higher than whatever is present in the small fish. So when you look at a aquatic system, you're going to be getting inverted pyramid. So both biomass pyramid and number pyramid can be inverted, uh, but then the energy pyramid is the only upright pyramid. Okay, right. This is an energy pyramid. It's always going to be upright. So the graphical representation that shows the amount of energy flow through different trophic levels is called the energy pyramid. So you can see in this case, okay, um, trying to get the, okay. So if you have 100%, okay, 90% of the energy is going to be lost. Only 10% is going to be moving. So take a look at this. So from 1 million, it went to 10,000, right? From 10,000, it went to 1,000 because only 10%. So what is the 10% of 10,000? Let's see. So 10% of 10,000 is 1,000 joules. So that is the only energy that is going to be passed to the tropic level. So you can see as it goes up, okay, there is a loss of 90% energy. Loss of 90% energy. So this 90% energy is going to be lost in the form of heat, right? Heat energy. So this 90% is lost as heat. Okay, it's gone. Okay, so for heat and respiration, right? For heat as well as respiration. So you all can see how it's given in the textbook and write according to that. So it's lost in heat and respiration. So you can see 90% is lost, only 10% is going. Okay, now answer this question. Okay, it's a very easy question. Which food chains are going to be more efficient? Is it going to be a shorter food chain or is it going to be a longer food chain? Which food chain is going to be more efficient? Yes, very good. Shorter food chain. So shorter food chain is going to be more, uh, shorter food chain is going to be more efficient in this case, right? Only one student had answered the question. Yes, shorter, less energy dissipation. Now, y'all tell me, okay, if I have to get more energy by consuming any of these organisms that you can see in this food chain, what am I supposed to consume if I want a lot of energy? What organism am I supposed to consume? Okay, green plants. I said according to this food chain. Yeah, the plant, the sunflower. The what are you talking about? There's no hawk in the. Yes, producers, right? Producers, right? The producers plants. So only if you consume them, obviously you can't intake sunlight. Sunlight has like 1 million joule, right? You can't. So we go for plants, right? So you can be the primary consumer. Now, if you consume plants, you will only get 1,000 joules energy. You're not gonna get the entire 10,000, only 1,000. Therefore, yes, if you consume plants, you can get more energy comparatively, right? Okay, good. So you all got that. Then let's move on. Okay, so this is the energy flow. This is what I was talking about. Only 10% of the energy is going to be passed to the next tropic level. Rest is going to be lost as heat. Okay. Right, so you can see the producer has 10,000 joules, primary consumer 1,000, then it goes to 100. So tertiary consumer finally is only going to be getting 10 joules of energy. All right, now let's go to biogeochemical cycles. Okay, so now I have skipped the pollution parts, okay, because there's nothing to teach there. You all have to sit and read. And remember, if they have given you several examples, study only few. Don't go to study everything. All right. And also, if you don't understand the diseases, go watch a YouTube video on it. So if you watch a YouTube video, rather than reading theory, if you watch a video, it will stick to your brain. Okay, so that way you can keep it in mind better. Okay. So now, the process of cyclic circulation of essential chemical components to atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, biosphere is called as biogeochemical cycle. So this is the definition they've given in the book. So now, the components in our, the earth, it has to be recycled. Like for example, how water cycle occurs, how we recycle water. Just like that, there is carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, and even a phosphorus cycle. So we will not be learning about phosphorus cycles. We will only be learning about carbon and nitrogen because that's what's given in the textbook, right? Okay. Now, so I got this. Okay. So this is the exact same thing that is given in the book, but this is more, vibrant and beautiful, more colorful, right? So you all can add a screenshot of this to the group. Let me know if you once you take a screenshot, like with a thumbs up or something, and please add it to the group. Okay, right. So let's talk about this, right? So you can see, first let's talk about how carbon is going to be lost to the atmosphere. Okay, so there are common things. Okay, we have a plant. So plant is going to be respiring carbon dioxide lost to the atmosphere. Then we have an animal. I don't know what animal this is, some sort of a dog creature. So that is again going to be, respiration occurs and carbon dioxide is lost to the atmosphere, right? Then we are going to be having factory. Okay, in factory they are going to be burning fuels. Okay, like when they burn fuels are hydrocarbons. No, so what happens is the carbon is going to be lost to the atmosphere, right? So hydrocarbons all lost. So the carbon is going to be, so that way carbon dioxide is going to be releasing with the combustion of this petrol and stuff like that, right? Diesel, all of that. Then right, so we have bodies. When the bodies are going to be decaying, so same thing with trees. Okay, when the trees decay, when the bodies decay, the carbon, now we have carbon in our body, no, in the form of carbohydrates. We have carbon, and also we have carbon in many forms in our body, right? So all of that is going to be lost to the atmosphere once our body decomposes, right? So same thing happens with the plants. So when we decompose, lost as carbon dioxide. Okay, so what are the ways? Respiration of trees, respiration of animals, decaying of bodies, and combustion, carbon dioxide is lost. Now let's talk about carbon dioxide being added to the uh, the earth, right? So the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, I'm sorry, this is shown as a two-way arrow. It's supposed to be a one-way arrow, right? Because yeah, that's a one-way arrow. Okay, so anyways, carbon dioxide is going to be again absorbed by the plants due to photosynthesis, and then the plant is going to be undergoing fossilization, and it's going to be turning into fossil fuel. Okay, so again fossil fuel is used to produce fuel, burnt in the factory, goes out. Okay, so that's a cycle there. So anyways, photosynthesis, and then again carbon dioxide is going to be added by dissolving. So once it dissolves, you're going to be having this cycle of sedimentation occurring, right? Formation of sediment. So you have carbonate rocks at the bottom. So carbon comes, sedimentation, releases, comes, goes again. So this is the cycle, right? So decomposition arrow. Yeah. Yes, the decomposition arrow as well. Yeah, it should be the other way around. I don't know what's wrong with this. Hold on. Let me correct it. You all can correct it, right? So I'm not going to waste time doing that. You all can correct it, no? So correct that, right? So the decomposition arrow is supposed to be this way. Okay, this direction. Yeah, so that's the carbon cycle. So there's not much mentioned about the sedimentation part, but they have given a description about this entire thing. So this part is important for your structured essay. So please study this diagram. It's important for structured essay, right? They can ask you different ways in which carbon dioxide, they can give you a situation like this, ask you how carbon dioxide is added, all that stuff, right? Then if it's clear, we can move on. Shall we move on? Okay. Okay. Right. Then this is what I got from the textbook, right? I couldn't find a different image. So under nitrogen cycle, they are mainly talking about three things, right? Biological fixation. Then we talk about atmospheric fixation. Then we have industrial fixation as well as denitrification. Okay. Now, uh, nitrogen fixation means atmospheric nitrogen. Okay. That is basically N2. Okay, when N2 is going to be converted to other compounds. Okay, for example, converted to ammonia or converted to nitrates. converted to nitrites. So when it's going to be converted to all these materials, we are going to be calling that as fixation, nitrogen fixation. So nitrogen fixation means atmospheric nitrogen converting to all these different materials. Okay. So now this is nitrogen, this is fixation, right? So we have atmospheric fixation, industrial fixation, and biological fixation that is done by microorganisms like bacteria. Then again, we have denitrification. Denitrification means other way around. Denitrification is other way around. So ammonium ions, nitrates, they are going to be converted to atmospheric nitrogen. So it's the reverse of that, denitrification. All right. Okay, so you can see how this happens. Okay, so you have so you have this dead animal. Okay, there's a deer, it dies, so that is going to be decomposing. That decomposition is going to be releasing ammonium ion. Ammonium is going to be turning into nitrite, which will turn into nitrate. So please study this diagram. Okay, if you all can, it's better if you draw it. Okay, so study the diagram, close the book, draw it, and please know the steps and everything, right? Okay. Then, okay, so it's better if you take screenshots of this as well. So biological fixation is how it's done naturally. Okay. So we have nitrogen. Atmospheric nitrogen is going to be converted to ammonium ions by bacteria. So they've given us two bacteria. So we have a free living bacteria. So azotobacter is free living, which means it does not need any other things for support. Okay, so it's a free living bacterium, and we have the example azotobacter. Then after that, we have a symbiotic bacteria. So rhizobium, very famous. I know you guys know about this. So it's found in the root nodules, right? Found in the root nodules of leguminous plants. And yes, the names of the bacteria is very important. You all should know it, because if it's not important, they would have given it on the extra knowledge part. They haven't know, so it's better if you write it like an equation and study. Then it's going to be easy, right? So just get a screenshot of this and let me know if you're done. Okay, so yeah, so symbiotic bacteria is rhizobium, found in the root nodules of leguminous plants, and they are going to be helping to convert atmospheric nitrogen to ammonium ions. So did you all get a screenshot? Yes. Yes, no, anyone? All right. Moving on, we have atmospheric fixation. So atmospheric fixation is something that's going to be happening naturally. So during lightning, atmospheric nitrogen is going to be converted to nitrogen dioxide as well as nitric oxide. So this is very easy, right? So you just have N2, atmospheric nitrogen, in the presence of lightning, that is under high temperature, high pressure, it's converting to nitrogen dioxide and nitric oxide. Okay, done? Okay. Okay. Then I hope the screenshot is taken. I'm going to be moving to the next page. Right. Okay, this is important. So we have industrial fixation. So this is done industrially. Okay. So with the help of microorganisms. So the ammonium compounds initially, right? So right. So the ammonium compounds you have are going to be converted to nitrite, NO2 minus, with the help of nitrosomonas bacteria, and then nitrite is going to be converted to nitrate, NO3 minus, with the help of nitrobacter. Okay, so there is nothing here. You just have to know the equation. That's it. So I have written it in the form of equation because it's easier to study this way rather than studying it as words. Okay, so maybe draw this in one, take one A4 paper, draw all of this and stick it next to your study desk, so you don't have to So that's what I did, right? So I didn't sit down and study all this thing. I just stuck it there. So whenever I saw it, it just stayed in my mind, right? So you can do the same thing since they're in the form of equations, right? So, okay. Can someone tell me if I can move on? Hello, people, wake up. Okay, wow, this person is very active. Yes, okay. Okay. Then moving on. Denitrification. Okay, denitrifying bacteria. So, like I mentioned, is the reverse. Okay. So they haven't given about the nitrite part, they've given about the nitrate. So NO3 minus nitrate is going to be converted to atmospheric nitrogen with the help of Pseudomonas or Thiobacillus. So either one. Okay. So either one you can write either Pseudomonas or Thiobacillus. Okay. This is denitrifying bacteria. Right. So we have another 3 more slides to go. Okay. So this is about, so I have skipped that entire part about the multiple cropping and, the eutrophication and stuff because that's just pollution. Y'all can read it, right? Anyways, carbon footprint as well as minimization of food mass. So these are the definitions and you'll have to know the definitions. Okay. So carbon footprint means the amount of carbon dioxide that is released to the atmosphere due to a particular organism. So can be an individual, organization, community. Okay, the amount of carbon dioxide released to the atmosphere. So you guys tell me, are we supposed to increase the carbon footprint or decrease the carbon footprint? Are we supposed to increase it or decrease it? The carbon footprint. Yes, very good. We're supposed to decrease it, obviously, right? Because, yeah, we have to decrease it, right? We don't want global warming. Then, water footprint. Water footprint is the amount of fresh water that we use in order to make our goods and services. Okay, right. So, again, there's nothing about reducing, increasing here. You all just have to know what is water footprint. Okay, so you all can see in the textbook they've given you, like they've given you chocolate, given you the kilogram of it, and they've given you the amount of water used. They've given you milk, kilogram water. So the amount of fresh water they have used to make it is called as water footprint. So you have to know the definition. Then finally, food mile. Food mile is basically the distance that the food is going to be transporting all the way to the consumer. Now, for example, let's say you consume vegetables and let's say your vegetable is coming from Dambulla. So the distance between Dambulla all the way to your supermarket as well as that distance plus the distance from the supermarket all the way to your house, you have to the addition of all of that is going to be the food mile. Now let's say they take it from the garden. Okay, so the total food mile is like they're taking it from the garden and then giving it to the transportation area, then it's coming to your food city, then all the way to your home. So that entire distance, addition of that is going to be the food mile. So the total distance food travels from where it is produced all the way to the consumer. So now tell me, are we supposed to, is it better if we have a lower food mile or a higher food mile? Which one is better, low or high? Yes, low is better. Why? What will happen if it takes a long time for the food to come? It's gonna rot. You don't want rotten food. Okay, you don't want that. So therefore, it's better if we decrease the food mile. It makes sense, right? Imagine you purchase some fish, okay, and obviously we put in the ice box, okay. So okay, let's take for example ice cream you purchase. So you're supposed to come home soon. If it's gonna take a long time, it's gonna get messy. So it's somewhat similar to that, okay. So yeah, so the food mile is supposed to be low, not high. Okay, so let's do some activities. Okay, what happened here? Right. Can you all tell me the answer to the first one? It's some math. We'll end biology with a little bit of math. So I want y'all to add it and tell me the answer. For the rice, potato curry. Oh my God, so you're bringing potato curry all the way from Vellimada, okay. Yes, 111 miles. Good. So one student answered. Next one. Come on, I want you all to wake up and do some addition. Like activate your brain. Come on. Can I get answers? String hoppers made up of rice flour. Okay, they have put rice flour. God, these spellings. Okay, wait, I'm doing the addition myself. Hold on. 1195. Yes. 1195 miles. Okay, that's right. I hope you're not seeing it from the textbook. This one, that is bread. Oh my god, the fish curry is taken from where is this from? Is it that long? 9,300 miles? Okay. Okay, and we are getting coconut sambar from Chennai, and that's 0 mile. Okay, this is just weird. This whole calculation thing is so weird. Okay, but can I get the answer for this? Yeah, it's 10184. Yes, 10,184. Okay, good. Okay, then. Good job. That's it. So it ends here, the seminar. So we have taken almost 4 hours. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's funny. Home garden is 44 miles. I know it's this whole thing is just very messed up, this whole food mile thing. Okay, so yes, that's it. Okay, so anything else? Any doubts you guys have? Anything to be cleared? Any doubts? Anything at all? Y'all can ask me. You can ask me. Okay, what is this? Okay, everything is clear. Right. So apart from the lessons, if you all have any questions, you can ask. Okay. So no doubts, I hope. Okay, then. So if you all have no doubts, no questions, then we'll end the class. And also the students who stayed till the end, thank you so much for staying, right? So I didn't fall asleep. Yes. So okay, then we'll end the meeting. Okay, so bye, good night.